The way I'd phrased it came out like a question, but my tone made it closer to a statement. Yang Wenchao's whole demeanor had been out of the ordinary from the start. Compared to something as far-fetched as rebirth or possession, he'd already played a similar game before. It simply made more sense as an explanation. And if that were true, maybe he wasn't the only one. Maybe some of those stubborn bronze names on the Duel Room's War God ranking had played it too. More information than the rest of us meant faster progress, plain and simple. He hadn't even come across as especially strong among true veterans. Could the girl he'd lost to earlier have been a game player herself? While I turned that over, Yang Wenchao didn't seem to be hiding anything at all. He glanced at me, calm, and said openly, "I did spend 4 survival points on the 5-win streak package, and I've already completed it." So that loss I'd watched earlier had come after that, during his attempt at 10. I was still working through the implications when he added, as if reading my mind, "But that 100,000-point loss didn't actually break my streak." He'd lost a duel and the streak survived? Because the random reward from the 5-win streak was a privilege-exempt card. It cancels out one loss in the Duel Room. Fail your 9th win, use the card, and your next match still counts as the 9th. That was a thing? I guessed immediately. So that's a high-tier card too? He nodded. Win streak rewards scale up the further you get. And for someone who's already built a long streak, one loss breaking it all would be devastating. So a card that prevents exactly that carries serious value, sometimes even more than the privilege card itself. I nodded along, not feeling much urgency yet at only 3 wins. But at 99? Losing there would be brutal. The farther along you got, the more precious that card became. If I ever got the chance, I wanted one in reserve, just in case. Can these win streak rewards be traded between players? He raised an eyebrow. Of course. He slid a few fingers across the console and gestured toward the display. Right there, the player trading function in the high-end mall handles Duel Room cards too. Sure enough, the display showed a whole range of them for sale. Announcement cards, the cheapest and most common, still ran over 100,000. Level up cards mostly started around 300,000. Privilege cards were rare, only 3 listed, at 600,000, 800,000, and a full million. Absolute daylight robbery. To an average player scraping by on odd jobs, that kind of money was unreachable, barely enough to cover rent and food most days. But to a 20th floor resident, killing a single person netted a flat 100,000. That single fact inflated the entire economy around them. Tell someone like Wang Lingling, stuck below the 20th floor, "Give me 300,000 and I'll level you up instantly," and she'd never take that deal. She'd rather grind it out herself than burn that kind of money. But for a 20th floor player, 300,000 was just 3 lives. Find 3 weak, skill-less players, kill them, and it was done, far easier than risking your own neck grinding levels the hard way. For them, 300,000 wasn't expensive at all. The whole system was just another reminder of how unfair everything was, dressed up in new clothes. The real world before all this had run on the same logic. Some people worked themselves ragged in every kind of weather for $100 a day, while others sat in mansions dodging taxes worth more than someone else could earn across several lifetimes. No matter where you landed, that same absurd gap in wealth just kept showing up. I was lost in that thought when Yang Wenchao, still eyeing the privilege card prices, asked, "How much did you actually make off your duel with Jiang Ye?" Going by that price, anything under 600,000 counts as a loss. I didn't answer right away, my mood souring. Under 600,000 counted as a loss? I'd walked away from that fight feeling pretty good about myself. Hearing this now made it sting a little. I hadn't actually cleared 600,000 from that match. Most of what I'd earned had come from spectator fees, and Jiang Ye had drawn a decent crowd, but the total viewing revenue only came out to a bit over 60,000, meaning something like 6,000 viewers total. What actually surprised me was her wager, a full 500,000. All told, I'd walked away with 560,000. Enough to wipe out my entire debt and still have plenty left to spend in the high-end mall. But now, staring at privilege card prices, I found myself second-guessing it. Had I genuinely taken a loss? At the time, I'd mostly been trying to cash out before the veteran flood hit. If I'd held onto the card and waited for stronger opponents, I probably could have earned more. In hindsight, I could have just sold the card outright in the trading zone instead of burning it on her. If Jiang Ye ever found out what I was thinking right now, she'd probably choke on her own fury, especially learning that the sneaky bastard who'd broken her 9-win streak had done it purely to make a quick buck, and hadn't even gotten full value out of it in the process. Wasting a card that valuable would already sting. Wasting it on ruining an innocent bystander for less than it was worth was almost worse. Good thing she'd never know. Yang Wenchao had clearly worked it out on his own, and I caught a flicker of genuine sympathy for her cross his face. But there wasn't much he could do about it. Beginner players didn't know any better, and dumb mistakes were just part of the learning curve. After a moment, he decided to explain it properly anyway. To be honest, that's not really how you're supposed to use a privilege card. The reason it sells for millions between players is mostly because of streak blocking. Key milestones, 3, 5, 10 wins, get specifically targeted by strong veteran players. Even some beginners start doing the same thing once they figure it out. Use the card to block someone's 8 or 9 win streak, then make them pay to keep it alive. Anyone who's already made it to 8 or 9 wins usually isn't broke, and even the ones who are will often pay through the nose just to protect the streak. Your match with Jiang Ye, for instance, if you'd shown her you could beat her and then actually negotiated, I think she would have paid a serious sum to keep her streak. Might have gritted her teeth and coughed up a few million. Not long ago I'd been sweating over a 350,000 debt. Now I was hearing I'd left a shot at millions on the table. Strength really did make money easy to come by. Something occurred to me. But if I'd deliberately lost to her instead, wouldn't that have broken my own streak? He nodded. Exactly why the smartest move is selling the card straight to a streak-blocking organization instead. They train people specifically for that role, strong players who genuinely don't care about their own win rate. So it really was true, wherever there were people, there was a whole underground economy forming around them. Veterans had already built organizations. Even beginners were probably starting to band together. I followed up. In the game you played, did people form organizations like that too? He nodded. Yeah. After a pause, he gave a relaxed smile. Honestly, the whole reason I played that game in the first place was to make money off exactly those kinds of groups. You haven't played Doomsday Apartment yourself, but from what you've already experienced in the beginner apartment, I'm guessing you felt it by now. That game is brutally unfair. Pay-to-win players and free players might as well be playing two entirely different games. Finally, real talk about the actual game. I was desperate to know more, what it was, what I was still missing. But he deliberately left me hanging, skipping the details entirely and cutting straight to his real point. You can probably tell, I'm no charity case. If you want intel, you'll have to give something back, won't you? I understood exactly what he meant. After a moment, I said it plainly. You came to me because you want to trade whatever you know for something you want. Right? He raised an eyebrow. Rather than a trade, I'd call it a partnership. Like I said, this whole thing runs on two completely separate modes, free and pay to win. I want to partner with you to clear the beginner apartment the pay to win way. I narrowed my eyes slightly, thinking it through. He'd clearly noticed my strength by now. I mirrored his own raised eyebrow back at him. So without your intel, you don't think I can clear it pay to win on my own? There was a real edge in my voice, confidence in my own strength behind it. He gave a cryptic little smile. You might be strong, but, he paused, then asked instead, do you know how to move between apartments? I answered plainly. There's a teleportation setup on the rooftop. I'd learned that much from the black-robed player after my third win. He didn't seem surprised, and kept going with a grin. Do you know the actual condition to activate it? Pay a survival point, I said. He shook his head. That's just the transfer fee. There's a second condition, the real one, you have to earn the favor of the apartment boss. The apartment boss. Something behind the whole apartment, pulling the strings. I hadn't even gotten fully familiar with the administrator yet, and now here was an entirely new figure to worry about. Could the shadow I'd met on the 20th floor, the one who'd handed me the jade token, be it? Doubtful. Someone at that level probably wouldn't be skulking around in a dark corridor like that. So if I hadn't even met the boss, how was I supposed to earn its favor? Then I remembered Huang Qi. Since he'd successfully crossed apartments, did that mean he'd already earned it? And Su Xiangming too. But what exactly had either of them done to deserve that? I turned to Yang Wenchao and guessed directly. Kill every player in the apartment, and that earns the boss's favor? He froze for a second. You guessed that? Or did you get it from somewhere? I guessed, I said, flat and calm. Not entirely a lie, Huang Qi's own words had planted the seed, so it really had come from a guess, just an informed one. He studied my expression, thoughtful, and after a while let out a sigh. All right, since you've already worked it out, I'll give you a little more. The beginner apartment actually has 3 special entities. Call them 3 bosses. The first is the public face, the administrator. The second is the shadow that hands jade tokens to 20th floor tenants. The third only ever appears once you've killed every other player in the apartment boss itself. And exactly like you guessed, moving between apartments requires killing everyone, meeting that boss, and earning permission to transfer. My mood sank the instant he said it. I'd assumed reaching the rooftop would be enough. Now I was being told the price was wiping out every single classmate around me. I thought it over, then looked at him directly. If you're bold enough to tell me all this, you must already know some other way around it besides slaughtering everyone. Otherwise, aren't you worried I'll go kill all my classmates right now, based purely on what you just told me? All classmates naturally included him. He couldn't possibly be confident enough to assume that just because he was a game player, I wouldn't dare come for him too. If he was willing to hand over information this dangerous, he clearly had a backup plan already in place. He'd never intended to hide it anyway, and nodded without hesitation. That's right. Normally, killing everyone else is the only way. But our apartment's a little special. He paused there, watching to see if I could piece together why. I thought of a specific item I'd seen sitting inside Huang Qi's spatial watch. I gave a knowing smile. And in their hands, they were carrying items that bypass the apartment boss entirely and let them cross apartments directly? His eyes turned complicated, surprise mixing with something more cautious. He pressed his lips together and nodded. Su Xiangming and Huang Qi each carried a cross-apartment item, granted by their own respective apartment bosses. And those items can be used by other players too. That's all he said, but the implication was clear. Everyone in the chat already assumed he'd killed both outsiders himself. Which meant his unspoken message was that he now held 2 cross-apartment items. I knew better. He only actually had the one he'd taken off Su Xiangming. Huang Qi's had ended up in my possession instead, and Yang Wenchao had no idea Huang Qi was even dead, let alone that I was the one who'd killed him. At the time, my bald disguise had been sitting in the duel room the whole time. He was simply letting the illusion of 2 items stand as leverage in this negotiation. I thought it over and decided not to expose the bluff. Instead I played along, raising a brow. So if you're offering a cross-apartment item as your bargaining chip, you're saying this pay-to-win path can only be reached by actually moving between apartments? He nodded, then continued on his own after a short pause. Let me lay it out plainly. The pay-to-win route through the beginner apartment is killing the administrator before the apartment self-destructs. Obviously, the administrator isn't something regular players can touch, he even has the authority to erase people outright. Killing him requires meeting extremely harsh conditions. In terms of raw power alone, you'd need survival point items, gear traded directly for survival points, far stronger than anything in the high-end mall. But triggering that kind of exchange requires holding more than 100 points on your jade token at once. And in a single beginner apartment, even wiping out every newcomer and veteran combined, you couldn't hit that number. You can't exactly kill yourself too, right? So to actually reach that threshold, you have to keep moving between apartments, killing your way through each one. Everything he'd said lined up exactly with what Huang Qi had told me earlier. But something else interested me more than the survival point items themselves. The administrator has the authority to erase players? I assume there's some specific item that counters that? Exactly. His eyebrow rose, voice lifting. I can tell you this with total certainty, no matter how many survival points you offer the shadow, you will never be able to trade for the item that counters the erasure privilege. And that piece of intel happens to be one of my biggest bargaining chips in this whole partnership. That was genuinely valuable information, and given how much he'd already shared, he was clearly showing real sincerity here. I thought it over and said simply, "All right. Let's hear the terms." His eyes flickered like he'd just thought of something, and he asked, completely out of nowhere, "You're a girl, aren't you?" I froze for a second. He seemed absolutely certain, launching into his reasoning without waiting for a response. "You live on the 20th floor. You know a survival point equals 100,000, and yet you've never killed anyone. And in your match against Jiang Ye, you didn't show a hint of mercy. So I'm guessing you're a strong female player, like Wang Lingling, someone who still cares about her classmates, reluctant to attack people she actually knows for no reason." Being confidently declared a girl felt more than a little strange. But then I remembered, this was the same guy who'd confidently insisted I was someone named Yang Xiaoman just a little while ago. All that swagger made him sound convincing, but when it came to actually reading people, he was pretty average. The confidence alone did most of the persuading. Since I was already committed to keeping my identity hidden anyway, I didn't bother correcting him. I just let him keep going, self-assured as ever. "You don't want to hurt classmates you actually know, fair enough. But killing strangers in another apartment shouldn't bother you much, should it?" I raised an eyebrow slightly, a silent "I'll allow that." Seeing no objection, he continued. "Then here's step 1 of our partnership. I'll hand over a cross-apartment item and walk you through how the transfer works. In exchange, you gather more than 500 survival points on your Jade token within 3 days. After that, we regroup back here, and I'll lay out step 2. What he was calling step 1, earn 500 points in 3 days, didn't actually bind me to anything real. No contract, no enforcement mechanism. It amounted to him simply handing over a free cross-apartment item. And I already knew something he clearly didn't realize I knew: he only had the one item to give. If he handed his only cross-apartment item over to me, what exactly would he use to move between apartments himself? Kill his way through every remaining classmate just to win his own apartment boss's favor instead? Looked at that way, his whole cooperation pitch might just be a smokescreen. His actual goal could be a diversion, luring the one person who might genuinely threaten his position clean out of the apartment, so he could keep sitting comfortably as the undisputed top dog here. Once I was gone, he'd have room to pursue whatever else he was actually planning. My presence here was clearly getting in his way. Of course, both things could be true at once, the diversion and the partnership. By sending me off to another apartment, he'd buy himself a clean 3 days to grow and prepare uninterrupted. Then when we regrouped for step 2, the balance of power might no longer favor me at all. He had more information than I did, and he was demonstrably more ruthless in how he operated. He probably believed 3 days would be enough to overtake me completely, and once that happened, he'd be the one calling the shots for whatever came next. I ran through every possible angle on his motives in that instant. I was about to press him for a little more information when a system announcement rang out in my mind, completely out of nowhere. Emergency announcement from the beginner apartment. VIP player UUMA is initiating a fusion between this apartment and beginner apartment number 1010. The 2 beginner apartments will complete fusion in 10 minutes. Fusion rules. 1. The apartment chat group and ranking board will undergo standard fusion. 2. Apartment administrators will be subject to optimization and selective fusion. Within 10 minutes, an administrator PK battle will occur. If a victor emerges, that person becomes administrator of the fused apartment. If no winner is determined, the administrator will be selected based on ranking board player count, with total player count as a secondary factor. 3. The fused apartment will be named after the original apartment number of the selected administrator. 4. When rooms fuse, if two players hold the same room number, an optimization battle occurs. Both tenants must duel within 10 minutes. If no winner is decided in time, the one with higher combat power wins. The winner keeps the room, the loser forfeits their right to it. 5. For further information, consult the optimized administrator after fusion completes. The instant it dropped, every student in the apartment was left completely dumbfounded. The chat exploded. Someone demanded to know what a VIP player even was, why our apartment was suddenly being merged with another out of nowhere. Someone raged over the room fusion rule, the loser didn't even get a refund, and had to pay a cancellation fee on top of losing the room entirely? Someone agreed, shouldn't any loss from a forced merger like this be covered by the apartment itself? Someone drew a comparison to old server merge events in regular games, where players usually got some form of compensation. Here, we were getting merged with zero warning, zero compensation, and a real financial penalty if we lost a room dispute. Someone said if this were a normal game, they'd already be leaving 1-star reviews. Someone tried to stay optimistic, with this many floors and rooms, the odds of an actual room collision had to be low. Someone else pushed back, low odds or not, this whole fusion reeked of trouble. Someone brought up Yang Wenchao, he was just a classmate, and he'd already started killing people on his own. Now we were about to get merged with complete strangers, probably ruthless, street-smart types, which was practically an invitation for more conflict and more bodies. Someone agreed the whole thing felt sketchy. What was this VIP player even after, and why did they have the authority to trigger something like this in the first place? Someone asked if being a VIP just came with more permissions automatically. Someone wondered if any of us could ever become VIPs ourselves, only to get shot down. We'd be lucky just to survive the beginner apartment, let alone reach that tier. Someone guessed that someone like Yang Wenchao might have a shot eventually, though even Wang Lingling probably didn't quite measure up. Someone finally asked, carefully, whether this fusion might somehow be connected to him. Since the chat was fully public, and everyone by now understood exactly how dangerous he was, his name got dropped with noticeably more caution these days. Sure enough, after that round of chatter, the group went quiet again. After a long silence, someone finally pushed back. Didn't the announcement clearly say a VIP player triggered this? Why was everyone so eager to pin it on Brother Chow? It made sense, though. He'd made such a dominant impression, and his background was such a total mystery to most of the class, that people had no choice but to fill the gaps with wild theories. Plenty now suspected he was some kind of reborn player, or had awakened an SSS tier ability, or was flat out some destined protagonist with limitless potential. A good number of classmates were already dreaming about riding his coattails to safety. I, having actually interacted with the mysterious Yang Wenchao directly, had already seen through most of the illusion myself. I skimmed the chat, found nothing especially useful, and was about to use the moment to press him about VIP players and the fusion mechanic. When, while I was calmly browsing the high-end mall, Replica 1, still lounging on the rooftop, soaking up the sun, ran straight into a new problem the instant that fusion announcement landed. More precisely, the problem was the woman in white. She clearly loved sunlight. While I'd been up there dealing with her hair, she'd set up a lounge chair, thrown on sunglasses, and started sunbathing right alongside me. Honestly, with the whole vibe she was putting off, anyone who didn't already know the context might have assumed she was relaxing on some sunny beach resort rather than the rooftop of a survival apartment. I half expected her to suddenly purr something like, "Come here, little bro, sis will pay extra for a special service." Thankfully, nothing like that actually happened under the sun. But the instant the fusion announcement dropped, her expression changed completely. That calm, leisurely sunbathing mood snapped into something between pure rage and genuine fear. After a moment of visible hesitation, she seemed to force it back down and stood up sharply. I was right beside her at the time, still working through the hair strand by strand, and tensed up instinctively, my hand trembled mid-motion. That tiny slip was all it took to set her off. "What are you shaking for? You just wasted a precious drop of my hair oil." Pure venting, obviously, aimed at nothing in particular. I said nothing, though privately I was turning something over. Did apartment fusion even affect NPC-like residents like her? And what would happen if a player's room number collided with an actual resident's room, instead of another player's? I didn't get the chance to think it through. In the next instant, she went fully berserk. She raised both arms, and every strand of hair I hadn't finished treating suddenly came alive, surging toward her, noticeably thicker now than before, slithering through the air like black water snakes. They climbed from her arms up to her head, shoving the towel off entirely. Beneath it, her long black hair was writhing on its own, a nest of living serpents twisting and hissing with a sound that raised every hair on my own arms. Even drenched in bright sunlight, the sight and sound of it sent a real chill straight down my spine. I froze on the spot. In that same instant, I was already weighing my options: fuse this replica immediately for a fighting chance, or cut my losses and abandon this C-tier body entirely. One of the black water snakes shot out from above the woman in white and wrapped itself around my neck. I'd already braced myself to lose this replica entirely. But the long, slick thing only coiled there, it didn't tighten. And the woman in white, having fully lost control of herself, had become something else entirely: the woman in black. Her white bathrobe slipped away, and her hair transformed into a black robe of its own, billowing in a wind that didn't exist on that still, sunlit rooftop. One version of her had been gentle and quiet. This one was manic, violent, her eyes sharper and far more aggressive as they swept over me. She left me with a single line before vanishing on the spot. "Otherwise, you'll die with me." I stood frozen, the black snake still wrapped around my throat, not daring to lift a hand to touch it. Cursing silently, a realization crept in: did this apartment fusion carry catastrophic risk for the NPC tenants too? Could the woman in white, the woman in black now, actually die because of it? Right as that thought settled, someone in the chat brought up something similar. Wang Hengyi, a grinding, top-of-the-class type, the kind teachers love to call Tsinghua material, someone who'd never once spoken in the group before, posted that the NPC tenants had gone noticeably more aggressive since the fusion. He'd spent the whole day running deliveries, and every tenant he'd met had been easy to deal with, generous with 5-star reviews, enough to push his errand badge all the way to level 3. But right after the fusion, the next tenant he approached had snapped at him and left a 1-star review on the spot, his very first bad one, and now he had no idea how many good reviews it would take to undo the damage. That alone caused a small uproar. Hengyi's badge was already level 3? How? If comprehension really tracked with intelligence, had he pulled some powerful starting skill, the way Lucian had? Someone pushed back: Lucian barely studied and still aced math, while Hengyi was the hard grind type. Maybe his raw IQ wasn't actually as high. Someone else pointed out that raw IQ hadn't mattered much anyway, since Lucian's ability only sat at C tier. Maybe Hengyi's was ranked higher. Someone dismissed that too: if his ability were really that strong, wouldn't he already be on the ranking board? A level 3 badge from grinding jobs wasn't that impressive in the grand scheme. Survival here came from leveling up and getting strong, and jobs led nowhere. Someone snapped back: then who was paying rent for the people actually saying that, Sister Ling or Brother Chang? Someone brought up Yang Wenchao. He'd never done a single job and was already crushing every former top student in the apartment. The whole thread spiraled into a pointless argument almost instantly, some clinging to the old belief that top students would rise to the top no matter the environment, others insisting survival here ran purely on power, and that no amount of past glory mattered without real strength behind it now. Strangely, almost nobody actually picked up on the point Wang Hengyi had originally raised, that the tenants themselves were turning hostile. I thought it over and sent my own message to the group, confirming it directly. The tenants really were getting more aggressive, and right now, I was trapped on the rooftop by the very one I'd been cleaning for. That finally shifted everyone's attention. Even Wang Lingling responded, asking how I'd even gotten up there in the first place. Since I'd already decided Replica 1 would carry a normal guy persona going forward, I answered honestly, no attempt to hide it. The tenant's cleaning job had been drying her hair in the sun, so she'd brought me up to the rooftop herself. Wang Lingling asked for more details, and I shared everything I'd seen up there without holding back, admitting I was currently stuck and hoping someone might have an idea. Nobody really had one. The general consensus amounted to hope the woman in white survives and comes back to free you. Wang Lingling, piecing together what I'd said alongside Wang Hengyi's report, guessed the fusion might genuinely be putting the tenants themselves at risk. She couldn't resist tagging Yang Wenchao directly, asking if he knew anything about what the tenants were actually facing during the fusion. He never responded in the chat. But since I was standing right next to him at the time, I asked him the same thing in person. He shook his head. Honestly, I know fusion happens, but I've never actually been through one myself, so I couldn't tell you exactly what the tenants go through. Once it's finished, we can just ask the administrator. I couldn't tell if that was genuine ignorance or a convenient dodge. I didn't press it, and just kept reasoning out loud instead. Based on what I said, the woman in white didn't kill me outright, just trapped me. And nobody in the chats mentioned any player actually being killed by a tenant. So does that mean tenants can't kill players at all? He nodded, following the thread himself. Sounds about right. Under normal conditions, they probably can't take the initiative to kill a player. But during a fusion, their own lives are apparently on the line, so they stop caring whether a player lives or dies in the process. What she said to you was basically, if she dies, you die with her. He frowned. This Jiang Ye's got guts. Doesn't seem like a game player, and he still walks straight up to the rooftop anyway. It was the first time I'd ever discussed myself with someone while wearing a completely different face. Strangely amusing, in its own way. But I genuinely didn't want to lose Replica 1, so I kept probing. Is his situation really just a coin flip on whether that woman survives? You said earlier the first step of our partnership was helping me cross apartments, and you'd walk me through how to reach the rooftop. If I go up there now, is there any actual chance of saving him? He looked surprised. You want to save Jiang Ye? Then he seemed to remember, this bald guy hadn't killed anyone and genuinely seemed to care about his classmates. After a moment's thought, he speculated. That black water snake holding him is probably a special item, an object, but sentient. It must have been given a specific command, if she dies, it strangles him. He paused, and his eyes lit up, his tone sharpening several notches. I can't promise we'll save him. But if we're lucky, we might actually be able to subdue that snake. Subdue it? I feigned shock and was about to press for details, but he cut in fast. If you've really made up your mind, there's no time to explain, we need to move right now. And I mean right now, because we're nearly out of time. I wasn't saving some random classmate. I was saving my own replica. So I didn't hesitate. All right. Just tell me what to do. That instant, decisive answer made Yang Wenchao seriously wonder whether the girl behind this bald disguise had some kind of crush on Jiang Ye, a love-struck fool, plain and simple. Not that it would have been shocking. Jiang Ye was, admittedly, decent-looking. A cute girl catching feelings for him wasn't exactly implausible. He didn't dwell on it long, just raised a hand and swiped through the console several times before shaking his head. We'll have to buy it from the mall. He started weaving fast through the display cases in the high-end section, calling back over his shoulder, the item we need runs about 300,000. And even with it, saving him, or subduing the snake, isn't guaranteed. You willing to risk that? I only had a little over 560,000 to my name. This alone would burn through more than half of it in one shot. Going by the exchange rate, 300,000 was worth 3 survival points, enough to create 3 more replicas outright. Should I just let it go and write off replica 1 entirely? If I spent those points on a fresh replica instead, it might roll something even better than what I already had. But I quickly realized it wasn't actually that simple. A survival point could convert to 100,000 currency, sure, but that conversion never ran the other way. Currency couldn't be turned back into points. The same logic applied to how veterans blocked win streaks. They demanded survival points specifically, while newcomers using privilege cards to do the same only ever received plain currency. According to Yang Wenchao, my duel with Zhao Yudi could have netted several million in currency if I'd played it right, and a full 10 win streak only cost 10 survival points total. By that math, shouldn't a 9 win streak be worth more than a full 10 win one? It wasn't, because no amount of currency could ever match the value of an actual survival point. To veteran players, currency was practically worthless, points were the only thing that mattered. Looked at that way, spending 300,000 in plain currency stung a lot less. The replica mattered more. I said firmly, I can take that risk. Alright, he said, still scanning display cases. While he searched, I took the opportunity to check the player trading feature on the console myself. My real reason for coming to the high-end mall in the first place had been to buy attribute fruits, direct stat boosts that would let my main body support more replicas. But after searching, I found none listed under player trading at all. I turned to him. Do you know where attribute fruits are sold in here? That caught him a little off guard. At the same bronze tier, fruits offered smaller boosts than equivalent gear, and worse, any stat gain from a fruit showed up directly on your data panel, which meant matchmaking would pit you against tougher opponents afterward. On top of that, fruits cost significantly more than gear at the same rank. Most regular players avoided them entirely in favor of equipment. Game players like him understood their real value, though. Attribute fruits were the only survival point items purchasable with ordinary currency, even if only the lower tiers were available that way. This bald guy wasn't a game player. He probably hadn't even glimpsed the actual survival point exchange list. And yet here he was, making exactly the kind of decision only someone with real insider knowledge would make. In Yang Wenchao's mind, the mystery bald man's threat level climbed another notch. Still, he gave the directions without hesitation. Northeast display platform. I headed straight there and found a small, elegant case holding stamina and energy fruits, sorted into black iron, bronze, and silver grades. The prices floored me. A single black iron fruit ran over 10,000, bronze ones over 100,000 each, and silver tier fruits sat at a staggering 5 million apiece. Absurd. But Yang Wenchao had already found what he needed and was rushing me along, so I gritted my teeth and bought 1 bronze stamina fruit, 1 bronze energy fruit, and 2 of each in black iron, 240,000 gone in a single purchase. Then the 2 items he'd picked out burned another 300,000. From 560,000 down to just 20,000, in the space of a few minutes. As we rushed out of the mall, I couldn't help asking, this 300,000, a piece of grass and a tube of water, what exactly are they for? We were already in the stairwell by then, and he was sprinting ahead, tossing the answer back over his shoulder. You'll see once we're facing the snake. No time to explain. If she's still alive, we've got time left. If she's already dead, that means she died during the fusion, and we're in serious trouble. The urgency was real. More than 8 minutes had already passed since the fusion announcement. Barely a minute remained. Would we even make it? Right as we told ourselves we still had that minute, the instant we stepped into the stairwell, a voice rang out in both our heads, apartment fusion complete. The original announcement had said the fusion would complete within 10 minutes, not exactly at 10. This round had simply finished a minute early, and that still technically fell within the window. Yang Wenchao's face went grim the instant he realized his own misreading of the wording. He fired off a message into the chat immediately. Jiang Ye, are you still alive? I was standing right in front of him. Even if Replica 1 really had died, I couldn't openly say so. A player's death showed instantly in the member list, but a dead replica wouldn't register there at all. I'd have to cover for it regardless. Fortunately, Replica 1 on the rooftop hadn't died. Yang Wenchao fired back immediately. Alright, stay put, I'm coming to save you. The moment he sent it, more than a few classmates quietly assumed I was already as good as dead. After all, he'd told Wang Rui he'd help reunite her with her parents, and instead he'd killed her outright. Now he was claiming to rescue me. Was anyone actually buying that? Still, given his strength, nobody dared voice the thought too loudly. Who knew if he'd take offense and start picking off anyone who spoke against him? By then the fusion had fully completed, and the chat itself had transformed. The member count now read 108 out of 162. New names started appearing almost immediately. Zhou Qiong asked whether Jiang Ye and Yang Wenchao referred to the ones from Class 1, Senior Year, Mingli High. Ran Zi expressed disbelief that Lu Xin, Xiao Likuan, and Gao Chang were all familiar names too. Xin Hang marveled that Apartment 1008 seemed to be entirely people from our own school, and that his goddess Su Yuan was among them. Xingman demanded to know why Wang Rui's name had gone gray, who had killed her. Very quickly, our side realized the same thing in reverse. Apartment 1010 was full of our schoolmates too. Someone was thrilled to spot a teacher, Zhou Qiong, among them, calling it a stroke of luck. Someone floated a theory, maybe apartments with close numbers, like 1008 and 1010, had better odds of merging with each other, explaining the overlap. Someone recognized Xingman and Ran Zi as Class 9 students. Someone admitted they'd braced for a merger with total strangers from society, and instead it was still classmates, and even a teacher. Then someone actually checked the numbers. Our apartment had started with 70 survivors. After the merge, the total sat at 108. Which meant only 38 of Apartment 1010's original members had made it through, more than 80 of them had died. Someone gasped, unable to process how that many classmates could have died, surely not from killing each other, maybe from monsters while leveling? Someone from 1010 answered plainly, it wasn't monsters. It really was classmates killing each other. Zhou Qiong, the teacher, admitted she hadn't expected our side to still have 70 people alive. Right after that message, another one dropped. Xingman, still that chatty, Teacher Zhou? Guess you've already forgotten I spared your life. No gratitude at all. Our side reeled. Zhou Qiong taught Chinese to both Class 1 and Class 9. Several Class 1 students shot back immediately, demanding to know why a teacher speaking normally was being threatened like that, questioning what kind of attitude that even was toward a teacher, asking what exactly had happened in 1010 to leave the whole group feeling this unsettling. Someone recalled the name Xingman, a known troublemaker from Class 9, always getting into fights. Someone dismissed the whole class as slackers who'd never once cracked the grades top 10, always finishing dead last across every exam that year. Someone even brought up a rumor that his father was a criminal and his mother wanted nothing to do with him, completely unsupervised, lawless. While our side gossiped freely about Class 9, the normally quieter members of 1010 exploded into the chat in response. Xin Hang laughed that our good students had clearly read themselves stupid. Ran Zi mocked how naive we were, bold enough to talk trash about bad students right there in a shared chat. Do Hemming taunted us to go check the ranking board and see exactly what level these bad students actually sat at. Xin Hang kept going, laughing at someone's earlier "yay, a teacher's here" comment as the funniest thing he'd read all day. Ran Zi joked that we sounded more like elementary schoolers than graduating seniors. Tang Xin chimed in sarcastically, what else could good students do but listen to their teachers? Then Xingman himself weighed in, cold and direct. He said he remembered every name of the Class 1 students who'd spoken earlier, and warned them plainly, watch their backs while fighting monsters or running jobs, because they might not even see it coming. Pure, arrogant intimidation. And it was obvious every voice speaking up in 1010 was one of his followers. Xin Hang piled on, didn't Class 1 and 2 get it yet? In Apartment 1010, only a select few actually had the right to speak. Anyone who hadn't bowed to Brother Xing was either hiding somewhere waiting to die, or already dead. Ran Zi spelled it out further, the chat might look public, but from here on, only Xingman and his circle got to talk. Anyone else who ran their mouth should be ready to die at any moment. Then Xingman circled back to his original question. Now that things are clear, the chat's finally quieter. So, Apartment 1008, answer me this. Who killed Wang Rui? Don't tell me it was monsters. That girl was so timid she'd never have left her room to fight anything in the hallway. Dead silence followed. By then, our side had already pulled up the merged ranking board and felt the weight of it settle in. Apartment 1010 Newbie Ranking Board. First, Xingman, Level 5. Second, Ran Zi, Level 4. Third, Xin Hang, Level 3. Fourth, Tang Xian, Level 3. Fifth, Do Hemming, Level 3. Sixth, Yang Wenchao, Level 3. Seventh, Yen Zhua, Level 3. After the two apartments merged, everything had been renamed under 1010, and the top of that board belonged almost entirely to Class 9. Even Yang Wenchao, our strongest, only sat 6. Wang Lingling, our second strongest, wasn't in the top 10 at all. If Class 1 had once been the rocket class and Class 9 the ordinary one, then in here, the roles had flipped completely. The former bad students had risen to the top as genuine powerhouses, while the former good students sat stagnant, plenty still stuck at level 1 or below. That gap landed on our side like a hammer, and combined with the open threats from Xingman's circle, nobody dared speak up in the chat anymore, terrified of drawing the wrong kind of attention. Even his direct question went unanswered for a long stretch. So we started calling people out by name instead, tagging both Yang Wenchao and me specifically, demanding to know how Wang Rui had died. He must have seen the earlier exchange between us in the chat right as the fusion completed. Since Yang Wenchao was the only level 3 in our apartment, tagging him, and me alongside him, was clearly meant to cement his own authority further. Neither of us was paying the chat any attention at that moment, though. According to Yang Wenchao, saving Replica 1 was a race against the clock, every second mattering. Once he'd confirmed I wasn't dead, he pulled out a poster-like sticker right there in the stairwell, slapped it against the wall, and pressed his palm to it. I recognized it immediately as the same kind of teleportation device the woman in white had used on her own TV screen. Through it, we arrived on the rooftop instantly, no eerie forest transition this time. The moment we landed, we spotted Replica 1 immediately, the black snake still coiled around his neck. Yang Wenchao rushed toward him, talking fast the whole way. Given where things stand, she probably survived the fusion. Which means, like she said, she'll be coming back to release him soon. If we try to forcibly wrestle the snake off her now, it might set her off completely. But we've got a cross-apartment item, we could just grab the snake and flee to another apartment entirely. By the time he finished, he'd already reached Replica 1, eyes locked on the snake. Bald me, Replica 2, followed close behind, frowning. If we run, what happens to Jiang Ye? Yang Wenchao answered evenly. Like I said, these tenants don't kill players unless their own lives are on the line. And we're the ones taking her snake, not him. Worst case, he just eats a bad review or loses his cleaning fee. Nothing serious. As he spoke, he pulled out the grass-like item from the high-end mall and offered it toward the snake. His voice stayed calm, but his hand trembled slightly. Only once the snake flicked its tongue and actually leaned toward the offering did he exhale in relief, though he still looked tense. Keeping his eyes on it, he passed a dark diamond-shaped chip over to Replica 2. This is the cross-apartment item. That console over there, activated with this chip, pay 1 survival point, and you can teleport to another apartment in the same region. Farther ones cost more points and honestly aren't worth it. He paused. And by taking this, you're agreeing to the partnership we discussed earlier. He was still clearly set on getting the mysterious bald man out of the apartment one way or another. Ostensibly, this whole mission was about a rare item. In practice, it doubled as a setup, provoking the woman in white just enough to hand him a fresh excuse to leave. And the tight timeline gave him no real room to reconsider. But I'd already thought this through from the start. I'd been planning to send a Replica off to scout another apartment eventually anyway. Facing his scheme now, I was more than happy to play along. I took the chip without hesitation, then frowned deliberately. What if I don't actually have any survival points? He looked annoyed but not suspicious. The chat had already established who'd killed whom in our apartment, aside from Huang Qi, and this bald guy had never killed anyone. Then it clicked for him, I'd killed Ding Dang. While guiding the nowadays snake, sluggish from the grass, into a small test tube, he said firmly, you should have 1 point on your jade token, right? We just saved your life. That's not too much to ask in return, is it? Right back where we started. This was supposedly a rescue? The whole thing had been about capturing the snake and engineering my exit the entire time. But I was still playing the ordinary 20th floor tenant here, so I couldn't call him out directly. The dazed snake slithered obediently into the vial, filled with a clear liquid that looked exactly like the solution in the tank the woman in white had used for her hair. Once inside, it transformed back into a single strand. With the thing off my neck, the relief was real. I turned to him and explained, I hadn't actually gotten my jade token yet when I killed Ding Dang. There's nothing stored in it, see for yourself. I pulled it out. A plain, flat 0. He looked genuinely frustrated. Only points stored in the token could be transferred. Whatever showed on a data panel directly was untouchable, impossible to take by force. It didn't matter, apparently. His eyes darkened, and he sneered. No points? Then you'll pay with yourself instead. Right in front of me, was he actually trying to kill me now? All that talk about one-shotting Jiang Ye hadn't earned me a shred of consideration? I didn't waste a second. I triggered a fusion, and Baldney's strength spiked instantly. Frozen Domain snapped out across the rooftop, his movement crashing to a crawl, and along with him, two strangers who'd just appeared on the rooftop slowed just as badly. I quickly adjusted the domain's range to sweep toward them too, making it look, for a moment, like I was actually working alongside Yang Wenchao rather than against him. In that same instant, I glanced at the chat. Even with more people now crowding the group post-fusion, it had gone eerily quiet, nothing but a wall of messages from the newly merged classmates. Xingman had tagged both of us again, demanding an answer, growing more openly hostile with each unanswered ping, mocking the idea that reaching the rooftop made anyone special, noting he'd heard Yang Wenchao was headed up there to save Jiang Ye, and promising, coldly, that he'd make sure both of us died up there instead. After that, the chat went completely silent. Even the classmates who'd been fawning over Brother Chow moments earlier said nothing. Scrolling back through it, I pieced the shape of things together fast. These new arrivals really were our schoolmates. But this particular cluster from Class 9 clearly didn't share the same baseline decency as Class 1 and 2. Out of 80 original members in their apartment, only 38 had survived the fusion. And judging from the tone in the chat, it wasn't that all of Class 9 was ruthless, it was specifically this circle around Xingman. Most of those 42 deaths were almost certainly their doing. And now, flush with dominance, they were openly threatening and mocking everyone from Class 1 and 2, myself and Yang Wenchao included. Xingman had clearly clocked him as the strongest player in our apartment and wanted to make an example of him. And the rooftop's existence had already leaked out through our earlier conversation, right as the fusion completed. Which meant, were either of these two strangers who'd just landed on the rooftop actually Xingman himself? I pulled the ranking board back up. No wonder Class 9 carried themselves with this much swagger, they dominated the entire top 10. Worse, Xingman himself already sat at level 5. No question he was the strongest in apartment 1010. My alertness spiked instantly. I moved fast, blinking forward and slapping one of the two frozen strangers hard across the face. An instant later, frost mist invasion surged straight into his lungs. I stayed on full alert the whole time. If this one strike didn't finish the job, I was prepared to fuse Replica 3 immediately, along with its mirror copy, pushing my power well past the 200 plus combat power I'd used to kill Huang Qi. Taking down even a level 5 Xingman shouldn't have been out of reach with that kind of edge. I never needed it. That single frost mist invasion killed the stranger outright. The other, still locked in the frozen domain, froze up just as fast, terror spreading slowly across his face like something out of a horror film in slow motion. Even sluggish and half-frozen, he managed one last message into the chat. Tang Xian, Brother Xing, save me. That single line told me everything. These two weren't Xingman at all. He'd stayed safely hidden and sent his followers up instead. Made sense, really. Even his lackeys were level 3, while Yang Wenchao and I only registered as level 3 and level 1 respectively. By any reasonable logic, two level 3s should have been more than enough to handle us. Yang Wenchao, still frozen solid inside the domain, movements and thoughts both crawling, was getting a very personal lesson in exactly how strong this mysterious bald man actually was. If it weren't for his resurrection ability, and his own theory that the game player wouldn't kill him outright, he'd probably have been tasting real fear by now. This was supposedly the same 50-something combat power that had matched Jiang Ye? He seriously suspected it had to be well past 100. A domain skill this powerful had to sit at minimum A tier, and true A tier domains were already exceptionally rare, most domain skills landing at S tier instead. So far in our apartment, only Wang Lingling and Gao Chang carried S tier abilities at all, and neither of them had comprehended an S tier skill to match it. Domain skills, as far as he understood it, almost always required a skill scroll to learn, and usually only became reachable around level 10 or higher. What level was this guy even at, carrying a domain skill already? That kind of luck, comprehension, and raw power. He silently cursed the bald man and prayed he'd hurry up and transfer apartments already, just to get him out of sight. At the same time, he felt genuinely fortunate he'd chosen to lure him away rather than risk a direct confrontation. He found himself wondering whether, 3 days from now, his own strength could actually catch up. And underneath all that, one more question nagged at him: how had this apparently love-struck girl ended up falling for Jiang Ye of all people? He wasn't bad-looking himself, and he was strong. Weren't most girls supposed to go for strength and capability? Right then, something happened that left him even more speechless. Once Baldme confirmed the second stranger wasn't Xingman either, and was just as weak as the first, I waved myself, Replica 1, over. This kill, and the survival point, they're yours. In reality, it was just me playing both roles at once. I had no idea how convincing my own little performance actually was, never having acted a day in my life, but I put on a suitably confused expression, stepped forward hesitantly, and finished off the stranger without much fanfare. Only then did Baldme release the frozen domain. I took the diamond chip in one hand and snatched the test tube holding the black snake from Yang Wenchao with the other. My eyes flicked to the spatial ring on Replica 1's finger, and I took that too, dropping the attribute fruits I'd bought at the mall into it before handing it back. Yang Wenchao stood off to the side, utterly floored. This wasn't just love-struck. This was a full-blown case. Meanwhile, as Replica 1 accepted the ring back, I kept up the nervous, clueless act. Baldme turned solemnly to Yang Wenchao. Jiang Ye's my brother. He saved my life. If I don't see him back at this apartment safe in 3 days, our partnership's off. Yang Wenchao listened, growing more speechless by the second. So now, just to secure this partnership, he had to babysit someone's boyfriend too? Not that he had any real intention of following through on the deal anyway. 3 days from now, who'd actually end up stronger was still very much up in the air. If his own power ended up crushing the bald man's by then, wouldn't it feel amazing to kill Jiang Ye right in front of him? Just as he was savoring that little fantasy, a sudden chill swept through the air. But it wasn't the same cold as the frozen domain, no ice element edge to it at all. This was the gloom of a dark ability, a creeping, ghostly cold. His expression changed instantly. Sure enough, the next second, the once sunny rooftop plunged into shadow, a dark wind howling out of nowhere. Baldme reacted immediately, blinking straight to the control console in the rooftop's inner ring. Up close, I spotted a diamond-shaped socket built into it. I slotted the chip in, and the console powered on, screen lighting up with a range of options. No time to study any of it in detail, I zeroed in on the most obvious function: cross-apartment transfer. One survival point bought a teleport to any apartment numbered between 0000 and 9999. Which meant 1008 and 1010 sat fairly early in that range. Not wanting to land anywhere near anyone I recognized, I picked the furthest number available, apartment 9999. The instant my body blinked away from the console, a black water snake, thicker, longer than the one already captured, lashed out at the spot I just vacated. It struck the console instead, and whatever the console was made of, it didn't take so much as a scratch. Back in the current apartment, the remaining me tensed on instinct. The woman in white stood barefoot on the rooftop's outer railing, furious, wrapped again in her white bathrobe, billowing without wind. The massive snakes atop her head thrashed wildly, sending a fresh chill down my spine. The strike that had missed retracted fast, and the writhing mass on her head folded back into ordinary black hair. Her fury hadn't cooled at all, her glare cut straight toward both of us. "You too," she said, cold and threatening. "Just wait." A glowing screen appeared in front of her, strikingly similar to the one on her apartment's TV. She pressed a palm to it and vanished completely. I stared, stunned, and turned to Yang Wenchao. "Wait, does she have cross-apartment abilities too?" He rolled his eyes. "Look around this rooftop. Sunny as it is, how many tenants do you actually see up here?" I thought about it and realized quickly enough, for her to even have rooftop access, she had to be extraordinary even among the tenant population. which meant she was genuinely about to hunt down Baldney across apartments. I snapped back to him. "You set that bald guy up." He answered with a completely straight face. "I did not. Don't go throwing around false accusations. How was I supposed to know she could cross apartments? Besides, tenants don't usually go after players. She'll probably just chase him down to get her hair back, maybe mess with him a little along the way." "None of that's on me," said with total righteous confidence. Privately, I was cursing him out. "The hell you didn't know? You absolutely did this on purpose." For a moment, the thought crossed my mind, fuse Replica 3 and its mirror copy straight into Replica 1 and teach him a lesson he wouldn't forget. I let it go almost as fast. He almost certainly had a resurrection ability of his own, along with who knew what other trump cards. If I acted under the Jiang Ye identity and failed to finish him in one hit, my whole secret would be blown wide open. While I was still weighing it, he spoke up. "Gotta say, kid, didn't expect you to be this popular. I let you go once before, and now that bald guy's protecting you with everything he's got." "Saved his life? What are you, some kind of walking good deed?" I said nothing, thinking privately, wasn't that literally just the cover story I'd built? How else was I supposed to explain a powerhouse like that going out of his way to help me? He kept going, casual. "So, since you supposedly saved his life, you should be able to guess who he really is, right?" As he asked it, he was also scanning the chat, checking to see whose names had gone gray during all this. Cross-apartment transfers registered the same way deaths did, as offline on the member list. Even in this short window, several more names had already dropped out. And in the chat, the Class 9 crowd was still running their mouths. This time, though, it was actually someone from Class 1 or 2 who'd sparked it. Right after Tang Xian had cried out for Xingman's help, Wang Chang jumped in. "Knew it. Looks like Tang Xian and Yanzhua from Class 9 just got one-shot by Brother Chow. I've been saying it, Brother Chow can one-shot even cross-apartment killers. Xingman might sit at a higher level, but that doesn't mean he's actually stronger." Guess I was right all along. With Wang Chang breaking the silence, Class 1 and 2 suddenly found their nerve again. One after another, people started pushing back against the mockery from Class 9. Fear of death was one thing, but they were still young, still proud. Nobody wanted to just swallow being talked down to by former bad students they'd once looked down on, without saying a word back. More classmates piled on behind Wang Chang's read, that even though Yang Wenchao's level trailed Xingman's, his actual strength outclassed it. Right after those messages went out, though, Class 1 and 2 students started dropping off the member list, one after another. In a short stretch of time, several more names dimmed to gray, so many, so fast, that even Yang Wenchao couldn't tell which grayed-out name belonged to the bald man who'd just transferred apartments. So all he could do was keep staring at me, still waiting for an answer to his question. My expression must have looked like I was straining to recall something, because Yang Wenchao couldn't help repeating himself. "Don't tell me you're actually some kind of walking good deed, so many acts of charity you've lost count of them all?" I shook my head immediately. "Of course not. Honestly, I rarely get involved in other people's business, and I can't really think of anything good I've done." I kept the same clueless expression the whole time. Listening to that, something in his gaze went slightly unfocused. He genuinely seemed to be marveling at just how bizarre this bald man's luck had to be, rarely medals, and yet had happened to help him, hasn't done anything good, and yet had happened to save his life. Some people spend a whole lifetime doing good and end up sick and miserable for it. Some people do exactly one good thing their entire life and get rewarded with luxury ever after. That old saying about good people getting good karma really did seem to play favorites. He found himself half seriously wondering, did good people actually get rewarded, or were some people simply born lucky, with doing good just fate's convenient excuse for playing favorites? While he sat with that little existential spiral, I suddenly put on a look of remembering something and said, with feigned excitement, "When I was really young, I saved a little girl who almost got kidnapped. But that was ages ago, I can't even remember what she looked like. All I remember is it was freezing cold, and she was bundled up so thick she looked like a little penguin. So maybe that little girl grew up and ended up as my classmate? Even after saying all that, I made sure to sound like I only remembered the act itself, with no idea who the person actually was. Wasn't this a little too soap opera? Childhood fate, reunited as adults? Yang Wenchao felt another wave of that same unsettled weirdness and shot me a strange look. Why don't you just scan the group chat and see which girls have gone offline recently? Maybe one of them's your bald guy. The second he said it, it clicked for me. Of course, a cross-apartment player leaving their home apartment would register exactly the same way as offline in the member list. But since the fusion, that arrogant Class 9 crowd had already started a killing spree, and in this short window, quite a few classmates had already dropped off. At the moment of fusion, the list had shown 108. Now it read 96. 12 people, gone in barely any time at all. Panic was spreading through the chat all over again. But this time, members of the mutual aid group who'd once worked alongside Yang Wenchao stepped up to try calming things down, Wang Lingling especially, finally taking charge in earnest. She told everyone the situation was volatile and that mutual aid members shouldn't gather on the first floor, that the safest place for any player right now was their own apartment room, and if they were scared, they should go hide there immediately. As for the killers running loose, she said the group would handle it. Someone responded eagerly, asking if she was confident she could actually take down Xingman, that if the mutual aid group combined with Yang Wenchao and the mysterious bald man, maybe they really could beat him. Wang Chang chimed in, insisting Yang Wenchao alone could probably do it. After all, he'd one-shot cross-apartment powerhouses already. He'd clearly become Yang Wenchao's #1 fan by this point, treating him as basically invincible. Then he actually shouted straight at Xingman in the chat, tagging him directly. Hadn't he asked who killed Wang Rui? Well, it was Yang Wenchao. 2 cross-apartment outsiders had shown up earlier, and Wang Rui had wanted to cross apartments herself, to reunite with her parents. Yang Wenchao said he'd send her, and then she died. If Xingman really wanted revenge, he should go after Yang Wenchao directly, though Wang Chang doubted he'd actually dare, since Bro Chao could one-shot cross-apartment bosses. Sure, Xingman sat at a higher level, but if Yang Wenchao decided to kill someone above his own level, it'd be like slicing a melon. So, did Xingman still dare talk about killing his Bro Chao? Bold, reckless words. Wasn't he just painting a target on Yang Wenchao's back? What if Xingman and Yang Wenchao decided to team up and go after him first instead? But in Wang Chang's mind, none of that registered as a risk. He genuinely believed Yang Wenchao could one-shot Xingman outright, and he was simply showing loyalty. As for whether Xingman might come after him personally, no worries there, he was already hiding safely in his own apartment room. Meanwhile, I kept up the pretense of scanning the member list for the bald man's identity, while really just watching the chat unfold. That's when something important clicked. According to what Yang Wenchao had told me earlier, that diamond chip used for cross-apartment travel came directly from the apartment's boss, and earning that boss's favor required killing every player in the apartment. But if players could just hide safely in their own rooms, how would anyone actually manage that? Yet Huang Qi himself had claimed to have wiped out his entire apartment. Which meant Yang Wenchao probably hadn't been lying, even a player's own starting room wasn't truly safe. That thought sent a real spike of anxiety through me. I'd never worried much about my replicas running wild out in the world, because as long as my main body stayed safe inside the apartment, everything else was recoverable. But now I just learned the apartment itself wasn't guaranteed safe at all. And my main body had already heard that unexplained knocking sound back at room 2025, I still had no idea what had caused it. My mood turned tense fast, worry gnawing at me over the main body I'd left behind, currently paralyzed from overexertion. No matter how strong my replicas got through fusion, if someone managed to reach my main body directly, I'd be finished completely. In that moment, all I wanted was to rush back to room 2025, hand the attribute fruits over to my main body, and have a replica standing guard. But before that, I turned nervously to Yang Wenchao and asked, if we hide in our own rooms, are we actually safe? Almost the exact instant I asked it, a new message dropped into the chat, timed like some cruel coincidence. Xingman, you really think hiding in your room makes you safe? My pupils contracted the second I read it. Because what he was implying was clear, he could break into other players' rooms and kill them there too. Not could. Definitely could. Sure enough, he kept going, arrogant as ever. You goody two-shoes are really naive to the point of being dumb. Forming some brain-dead mutual aid group was one thing, but you actually kept written records? And the best part, those records didn't just list your starting abilities. They included your room numbers too. Ha 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 ha, that's just too stupid. He tagged the teacher directly. Miss Show, come take a look, these are the Class 1 students you always used to praise to us in Class 9. Looking at them now, don't you wonder if their brains got scrambled somewhere along the way? Still as cocky as ever. But what actually struck me was a sudden realization, a player's room number might genuinely be more valuable intel than their starting ability. Yang Wenchao was clearly tracking the same chat. He wasn't waiting on my guess about the bald man's identity anymore, and honestly didn't seem to care much either. That guy had already left, and whether he'd survived the trip was still an open question. Compared to him, it was this increasingly unhinged Xing man who was actually getting under his skin. He frowned, noticed how stiff my expression had gone, and raised an eyebrow. You exposed your room number too? I nodded, sheepish. He sneered. So dumb. Without bothering to answer my earlier question, he dropped straight into the chat instead. Xing man? Sounds like you're due for a release. Weren't you just bragging about killing me and Jiang Ye on the rooftop? So why'd your two little flunkies end up dead instead? Both your lackeys are gone, and I'm still standing right here. Why haven't you come up to settle this yourself? Also, yeah, what Wang Chang said was true. I killed Wang Rui. If you want revenge, come on up. Rooftop. I'll give you 3 minutes. If you don't show, I'll assume you chickened out, and from then on, if you ever see me, take the long way around, and quit cluttering the chat like an eyesore. Every bit as arrogant as Xing Man's own tone. It instantly gave Class 1 and 2 their spines back, cheering with relief, especially Wang Chang, thrilled just to have been mentioned by name. Wang Chang started shouting again, practically manic. Told you. Bro Chao's not scared of Xing Man at all. Notice how Xing Man knew Bro Chao was on the rooftop and only dared send his lackeys up first to test the waters? That's fear, plain and simple. Bro Chao's the best, that Xing Man's nothing but trash. Other classmates piled on, especially the ones who'd already fled to their rooms and felt safe enough to cheer from a distance, egging Xing Man on to actually go up there and fight. They pointed out that a level 5 too scared to face a mere level 3 didn't have much room to act high and mighty. They were deliberately baiting him into an actual confrontation with Yang Wenchao, figuring that between the two, Yang Wenchao was still, technically, one of our own, and probably strong enough to win. Xing Man, meanwhile, was an outsider from the fused apartment, a total invader. Getting Yang Wenchao to deal with him felt like the priority. Best case, in some students' quiet hopes, both arrogant killers would take each other out entirely on that rooftop, clearing the path for Wang Lingling's group to reclaim the apartment. Some even fantasized that if the two of them beat each other half to death up there, I, also present on the rooftop, might swoop in and finish off whoever survived. A neat, tidy outcome in their eyes, since I didn't seem like the type to kill without reason. Better me benefiting than either of those two walking away stronger. Right as everyone hid in their rooms, hyping each other up toward a rooftop showdown neither killer actually intended to start, Xing Man dropped another line. All right. In that case, let our classmate Wang Chang explain to everyone exactly why I'm this confident. The chat went quiet for a beat before someone prodded, Go on, Wang Chang, tell us. Then a broken, stuttering message actually appeared from him. I was wrong, please let me go. Brother Xing, Lord Xing, I don't want to die. Class 1 and 2 erupted in shock. Wang Chang, arrogant seconds ago, suddenly begging for his life? Even through plain text, the tone read as unmistakably wrong. What followed made it worse, like he was being forced into it. He started cursing Yang Wenchao instead. Yang Wenchao, useless. You idiot. Wah, please let me go, somebody save me. Bro Chao, save me. Ah. Then his name went gray on the member list, and every recent message of his vanished at once. No doubt left. Wang Chang was dead, forced, right before the end, to hurl insults at Yang Wenchao in the chat. But hadn't he been hiding safely in his own room? How had he still ended up killed? That question landed on everyone at once, and the terror of realizing my room is safe wasn't actually true swept back through the group. Lower floor apartments weren't anywhere near as spacious as mine on the 20th, some barely had more than a bed and a wardrobe. Some students, thoroughly panicked, crammed themselves into closets, shaking, terrified of ending up exactly like Wang Chang. Xingman kept going regardless. Let's see who else is in this lovely little mutual aid registry. Gu Zining, apartment 0602. Yang Wei, apartment 0836. Bai Ruowan, apartment 1208. Lucian, apartment 1444. Jiang Ye, apartment 2025. Reading through apartment numbers one after another, like a hit list read aloud. When he got to my name, he added a mocking aside. Oh. This Jiang Ye is a 20th floor tenant. But since he's currently up on the rooftop, that room should be sitting empty, shouldn't it? Then, turning back to Yang Wenchao, as for you, what, just because you told me to come to the rooftop, I'm supposed to listen? That'd make me look weak, wouldn't it? How about this instead, you come to room 2025 and we settle it there? Let's see if you're all talk or if you've actually got something behind it. Yang Wenchao was the one provoking him in the chat. What did that have to do with me? He'd killed the man's lackeys, and I was just some random bystander caught in the middle. Why were innocent passers-by getting dragged into a fight between two top dogs? Did they think bystanders didn't have tempers of their own? In that moment, both my main body and every active replica flared with real anger. At least Replica 3 was still stationed in room 2025, but my paralyzed main body sat there too, a genuine liability, and with the fight now bearing down on that exact address, the danger had never been higher. No matter what, I needed that main body to come through without a scratch. Replica 3 immediately began arming itself with everything scavenged off Huang Qi that it could carry. The fresh mirror copy stood at full alert. Meanwhile, Replica 1, still on the rooftop, put on a panicked expression, fully committing to the act. We're screwed, we're screwed. Bro Chow, what now? You actually confident you can beat this Xingman guy? How about, go camp outside my room right now, and the second he shows up, just one-shot him. The moment I said it, I second-guessed it internally. What if Yang Wenchao lost his composure too, killed Xingman, then decided to just break into my room afterward anyway? Maybe the actually ideal outcome here was still the two of them wiping each other out entirely. What I really needed to focus on was understanding exactly how people like Xingman and Huang Qi, the ones bent on wiping out entire apartments, were even getting into other players' rooms in the first place. And, just as important, whether there was any way to stop them. On one hand, my main body needed real protection from any potential break-in. On the other, if I ever wanted a replica to go fully on the offensive across apartments, learning how to breach a room myself would be just as valuable. My face stayed panicked on the surface while my mind raced through the angles. Then I felt a hand settle on my shoulder. Yang Wenchao, calm as ever, resting it there casually. You really think Xingman's avoiding the rooftop over something as simple as face? Both of them, snarling at each other in the chat like they could one-shot the other without breaking a sweat, both purely probing, purely bluffing, and neither one actually intending to strike first. Using face as the excuse to demand the other come to them, while carefully avoiding making the first move themselves. Which meant, in practice, this looked like an imminent duel to the death on the surface, but underneath it, neither one had any real intention of fighting, not yet, anyway. Still, this couldn't drag on forever. They'd have to face off eventually, wouldn't they? I looked at him, a little confused. He narrowed his eyes and smiled. If it actually came down to it, I'm fairly confident against Xingman. Not certain, but I've got a real shot. For now, while there's still time, might as well keep getting stronger. He's probably thinking the exact same thing. So really, it's just a race, whoever powers up faster wins. As he spoke, he waved a hand and pulled out his teleportation poster again. After a moment's thought, he said, more serious now, your room's been exposed to Xingman. It's not safe anymore. Honestly, This whole apartment isn't safe anywhere at this point. He paused. Right now, if you actually want to stay alive, you've basically got two options. First, cancel your lease. Give up room 2025, rent somewhere new, and keep that new number a total secret. If you've got the money, go even higher, 30th floor, 40th, even 50th. Nobody else can reach those floors right now anyway. Keep the number hidden, and you're basically safe. Another pause. But here's the harsh part, you're broke. And the administrator's desk down on the first floor is probably being watched by Xingman's people right now. Trying to transfer a lease down there would be genuinely risky. So really, you've only got one option left. I listened, half expecting his second suggestion to be teaming up together, already turning over whether I should agree, since sticking close to him meant picking up real tricks for getting strong fast, or at least gaining useful experience. Though it would also mean real danger, and a real risk of my replicas getting exposed in the process. I still hadn't decided. What caught me off guard was that his second option had nothing to do with teaming up at all. The situation's a little unusual right now, he said. That woman in white went off chasing the bald guy. She might not be back for a while. So for now, hide in her room. You know which one, right? That stunned me. You want me to hide in her room? Is that even possible? He raised an eyebrow. Why wouldn't it be? Aren't you working there as a cleaner? Your job order's probably still marked incomplete on your badge. With that, plus the fact that she left in a hurry with no instructions left behind, her little assistant robot probably won't turn you away. And if she does come back suddenly, just say you were waiting for her to confirm the job since it hadn't wrapped up yet. Sure, camping in someone's home to confirm an order sounds dumb and suspicious on its own, but you already come off dumb enough that she won't think twice about it. And since her room was originally NPC housing, Xingman and his people probably won't even try breaking in there. Until she's back, you should be safe. That actually held together. Still, a flicker of suspicion crept in. Was he trying to set me up again? As I hesitated, he cut straight to the point. I've given you the analysis. What you do with it is your call. Either way, I'm not responsible for whether you live or die. If you don't want to go to her room and would rather wander the halls instead, that's fine too. But tagging along with me and slowing me down? Not happening. Cold, heartless, honestly. I found myself thinking, privately, just wait till my bald bro gets back, I'll ride his coattails and throw my weight around too. A small, indulgent bit of imagined drama. But underneath it, I understood the reality clearly enough. His options had never really been an offer of help. What I chose was entirely on me. He'd handed me a suggestion, nothing more. He didn't even wait for an actual answer. He grabbed my hand and slammed it against the poster. The next thing I knew, I'd been yanked straight through it, the world shifting around me instantly. I found myself in the 20th floor stairwell. His parting line followed me through. Live or die, that's up to your luck now. Then he vanished in a flash. Replica 1 was genuinely weak at this point, and I didn't dare linger in that stairwell. I bolted straight for room 2025. Xingman hadn't reached the 20th floor yet by then. After that exchange of posturing with Yang Wenchao over face, he'd moved on to actually working through the death list he'd read aloud earlier. Gazining from 0602 and Jiang Ye from 0836 had already gone offline, and from their final messages, it was clear they'd been forced into the same kind of despairing, begging posts before the end. Xingman, meanwhile, seemed to be genuinely enjoying this live spectacle of death by text. Just as Replica 1 was closing in on room 2025, Xingman's next message dropped. Who's next, I wonder? Oh, Little by Ruoan, from 1208. That name sounds like a girl's, doesn't it? TSK. I'll have to be extra gentle with girls. 4 short lines. Every one of them screaming exactly what he was. Fear spread through the whole apartment like wildfire. Most students were shivering, sunk in despair, too scared to type anything, silently raging inside. Why did saving face matter so much to Yang Wenchao? Wouldn't the gratitude from actually killing Xing Man outweigh whatever pride he was protecting? Or maybe he genuinely lacked the confidence to beat him, and face was just a convenient cover for that fear. But if that was true, what was left for the rest of them? Were they all just going to die here? If only some higher power would step in and take Xing Man out. Where was that VIP player who'd triggered the fusion in the first place? Didn't she have real authority here? Couldn't she use it to save everyone else? The dread was suffocating. Plenty of students had already sunk into total hopelessness, with no idea where to place their last hope. They'd complained about the overpriced food in the low-end mall not long ago, back when hunger felt like the worst thing this place could throw at them. Now they were learning there was a despair worse than hunger. They used to think nothing could be harder than senior year. Now, staring down actual death, some of them were quietly longing for the exam room they'd once dreaded. Miss Bai Ruoan, it's your turn to open the door now. Xing Man's twisted little broadcast continued unbroken. Replica 1 finally made it back to room 2025. I pulled the attribute fruits from the spatial ring and started feeding them, one at a time, to my paralyzed main body. The first black iron stamina fruit added 0.5 to my stamina. The second only added 0.4. Then the bronze tier stamina fruit, I'd assumed a full 5-point jump, given it cost 10 times as much as black iron. Instead, it only added 1 full point. Which meant, after 3 fruits and 120,000 in currency, my stamina had only climbed by 1.9 total. The energy fruits produced the exact same pattern, 1.9 total gain across 3 fruits. A theory started forming. These fruits clearly had some kind of usage cap. The first and second black iron fruits had already shown diminishing effects, and the value clearly didn't scale with the price tag. If each fruit gave a flat, fixed boost, 0.5 for black iron, 1 for bronze, the price gap between them should only run double, not tenfold. There had to be a diminishing returns mechanism at play. Maybe a third black iron fruit would only add 0.3. By the sixth, maybe nothing at all. Which meant even that staggering 5 million currency silver tier fruit probably wasn't quite the miracle boost it appeared to be. Made sense, actually. Without some kind of cap, anyone could just farm kills for survival points, cash them in, and eat their way to invincibility through fruit alone. But that thought led somewhere far more interesting for me specifically. Regular players might hit that fruit ceiling hard. I had infinite replication. Once one replica maxed out its fruit intake, I could simply swap in a fresh one and keep going, and with replica fusion stacked on top of that, wasn't that functionally the same as having no real limit at all? Something to plan for properly later. Right now, I was down to just 20,000 in currency. Even so, I still didn't want to trade survival points for money. Instead, I transferred the point Replica 1 had earned from killing Tang Xian straight to my main body. After gaining roughly 2 more attribute points from that, it generated a 4th replica. 4 replicas were probably my hard limit for today. Come midnight, I'd need to fuse one of them back in to meaningfully boost my main body's core stats, setting up for even more replicas tomorrow. Which meant, before that fusion, I should stuff whichever replica I picked full of attribute fruits up to its cap first, meaning another serious spending spree, buying up black iron through silver tier fruits in bulk, silver alone running 5 million apiece. Meanwhile, my cross apartment replica 2 was already stirring up its own commotion in apartment 9999. Same as when Huang Qi and Su Shangming had first dropped into ours, my sudden arrival there drew immediate attention. But what fixated everyone wasn't just that I was cross apartment, it was this. What the hell is this? A measly level 1 player dares to cross apartments? Just reading that first message told me something was off. Back when Huang Qi first appeared in apartment 1008, it had taken our whole group a round of confused discussion before anyone even guessed cross apartment. Here, the very first message named the term outright, and the tone carried nothing but condescension. What really caught their attention wasn't the crossing itself. It was that I was only level 1. That detail alone seemed to bewilder them more than the crossing did. What I saw next nearly short-circuited my brain. Beginner apartment 9999, ranking board. Number 1, Lin Jing, level 10. Number 2, Wang Chengjin, level 10. Number 3, Kopang, level 10. Number 4, Jiang Wenhan, level 10. Number 5, Li Junqi, level 10. Number 6, Xiaobo, level 10. Number 42, Yuya, level 10. Number 43, Chung Kun, level 9. Number 118, Wan Xin, level 8. Number 119, Jiang Ye, level 1. I felt like I'd stepped straight into the Twilight Zone. Over 100 names on this board? Had this apartment already been through its own fusion, or were there simply that many cross-apartment powerhouses packed into one place? Before I'd arrived, even the very last name on that board sat at level 8. Now, dropped in fresh, I found myself as number 119, a baby stepping straight into a room full of giants. And those top 6 names looked familiar. If I remembered correctly, all 6 had appeared on the Duel Room's War God ranking, under the stubborn bronze title. What kind of apartment was this? Why were so many top-tier players crammed into one place? While I sat there reeling, the veterans of 9999 were already dissecting me in their own chat. A level 1 cross-apartment player, and of all places, he'd landed here? No way this wasn't just some total newbie who'd stumbled in by accident. No sane player would voluntarily jump into 9999 at level 1. Maybe he was hiding his true strength, someone suggested, an SSS tier ability, maxed out fruits, a full set of survival point gear. If a real newbie glanced at this ranking board, they should be running for their lives on sight. The fact that he hadn't bolted yet might mean he really was some disguised monster. Or maybe, someone else countered, he was just too dumb, burned his only survival point getting here and now had nothing left to escape with. They had nailed it exactly. Yes, I wanted to run. No, I didn't have the points to do it. If only Replica 2 back home had actually finished off both of Xingman's lackeys instead of letting Replica 1 take the credit for one of them, I'd have had exactly enough saved up for a return trip. But no, I'd gotten greedy chasing a 4th Replica instead and hadn't thought it through. I'd assumed cross-apartment travel would play out like it had for Huang Qi, dropped among strangers with no way back, forced to go all in and start killing. And sure, I was ready to go all in. But could I actually kill any of these strangers? At this level gap, my only real option now was to find somewhere to hide in 9999 and wait out the clock until midnight fusion. Assuming a cross-apartment replica could even fuse at midnight in the first place. The whole situation had gotten absurd. I found myself wondering about that very last name on the board, Wan Xin, level 8. How strong was his actual combat power? Could my replica, even fully fused, stand a chance against someone like that? A level 8 in an apartment like this one was clearly a different breed entirely from a level 8 anywhere else. Trying to kill one of them while sitting at level 1 myself, no realistic chance at all. While I sat there turning it over, I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. I scanned the area, nobody in sight. I tensed instinctively, resting a hand on the rooftop control console, doing my best to look calm and ready to teleport out at a moment's notice. Right then, a new message dropped in the apartment 9999 chat. Wan Xin, I knew it. This guy's totally a sleeper monster. Guess who this level 1 who dared cross into our apartment actually is? Yuya, who? Who? One of the whales from the game rankings? Chang Kun. Even if he was a whale back in the game, that doesn't necessarily carry over into the real apartment system, does it? Wan Xin, wrong, all of you. He's not from the game at all, he's that mysterious bald guy who stirred up a whole storm in the duel room recently. Li Junqi, the mysterious bald guy who beat Zhao Yuri, possibly pissed off the duo organization, and even caught a VIP player's attention? Wang Chengjin, you sure you're not mistaken? With disguise masks around, anyone can make themselves look bald. Wan Xin, I'm positive. I watched the match where he one-shot Zhao Yuri with my own eyes. No way I'm confusing that. Wang Chengjin, bro, just say it straight, are you the guy who one-shot Zhao Yuri? At Jiang Ye. Wan Xin, bro, did you come to our apartment to challenge us to a life or death duel? At Jiang Ye. Jochi, that can't be right, can it? That bald guy had insane combat instincts, sure, but if he actually matched Jiang Ye in combat power, that'd put him around 50-something, which does line up with level 1. But even so, level 1, barely 50 combat power, and he walks straight into our apartment? Isn't he worried we'll snap our fingers and turn him into survival points? 1xin, this guy must have come prepared. Look, his hand's already on the control panel, ready to teleport out at any second. Someone else guessed I was probably just waiting to see how they'd react. If they wanted to talk, I'd talk, if not, I'd bounce. Wang Chengjin scoffed at the idea I could actually escape. Bounce? He really thinks he can get away? If Master Jing makes a move, even with his hand already on the panel, even with lightning reflexes, he's not getting out of here. But could I actually kill any of these strangers? At this level gap, my only real option now was to find somewhere to hide in 9999 and wait out the clock until midnight fusion. Assuming a cross-apartment replica could even fuse at midnight in the first place. The whole situation had gotten absurd. I found myself wondering about that very last name on the board, 1xin, level 8. How strong was his actual combat power? Could my replica, even fully fused, stand a chance against someone like that? A level 8 in an apartment like this one was clearly a different breed entirely from a level 8 anywhere else. Trying to kill one of them while sitting at level 1 myself, no realistic chance at all. While I sat there turning it over, I suddenly felt like someone was watching me. I scanned the area, nobody in sight. I tensed instinctively, resting a hand on the rooftop control console, doing my best to look calm and ready to teleport out at a moment's notice. Right then, a new message dropped in the apartment 9999 chat. 1xin, I knew it. This guy's totally a sleeper monster. Guess who this level 1 who dared cross into our apartment actually is? Yuya, who? Who? One of the whales from the game rankings? Chang Kun. Even if he was a whale back in the game, that doesn't necessarily carry over into the real apartment system, does it? 1xin, wrong, all of you. He's not from the game at all, he's that mysterious bald guy who stirred up a whole storm in the duel room recently. Li Junki, the mysterious bald guy who beat Jiang Ye, possibly pissed off the duo organization and even caught a VIP player's attention? Wang Chengjin, you sure you're not mistaken? With disguise masks around, anyone can make themselves look bald. 1xin, I'm positive. I watched the match where he one-shot Jiang Ye with my own eyes. No way I'm confusing that. Wang Chengjin, bro, just say it straight, are you the guy who one-shot Jiang Ye? At Jiang Ye. 1xin, bro, did you come to our apartment to challenge us to a life or death duel? At Jiang Ye. Jochi, that can't be right, can it? That bald guy had insane combat instincts, sure, but if he actually matched Jiang Ye in combat power, that'd put him around 50-something, which does line up with level 1. But even so, level 1, barely 50 combat power, and he walks straight into our apartment? Isn't he worried we'll snap our fingers and turn him into survival points? 1xin, this guy must have come prepared. Look, his hand's already on the control panel, ready to teleport out at any second. Someone else guessed I was probably just waiting to see how they'd react. If they wanted to talk, I'd talk, if not, I'd bounce. Wang Chengjin scoffed at the idea I could actually escape. Bounce? He really thinks he can get away? If Master Jing makes a move, even with his hand already on the panel, even with lightning reflexes, he's not getting out of here. Master Jing clearly referred to Lin Jing, the number 1 name on this apartment's board, and, if I remembered right, also the top of the duel room's war god ranking overall. As I was still piecing all this together, the next message hit, sender, Lin Jing himself. Tell us what you came here to talk about. Be direct, at Jiang Ye. The whole 9999 chat exploded instantly. Before, only a handful of people had been talking. Now the floodgates opened, Lin Jing's message buried under a tidal wave of excitement, disbelief that Lin Jing had actually come out personally for some level 1 newbie, speculation about how many more wins he needed for a full 100-win streak, and whether he'd hit it today, someone getting chills at the idea of him taking down the administrator on day one. The fanboying was overwhelming, but I caught the key pieces buried in it. Lin Jing was apparently chasing a 100-win streak in the duel room, and these apartment 9999 players were seriously planning to take down their own administrator. Plus that earlier mention of whales. Putting it together, I understood, these players, like Yang Wenchao, were game players themselves. But not ordinary ones. Elite, even among people who'd already played the actual game. Clearly gunning for the pay-to-win clear path he described, some apparently reckless enough to try taking down the administrator on day one itself. While I processed all that, I still had to figure out how to actually answer Lin Jing. It seemed like he, and everyone else, genuinely believed I'd come here specifically to negotiate something. In truth, I just picked a random, far-off apartment number and stumbled in blind. I had no idea what this place was, let alone any actual plan to talk or fight. But admitting that now would go badly for me fast. So I thought it over and doubled down instead. I want to challenge a life-or-death duel, at Lin Jing. Truthfully, I had no idea what that even meant. But since someone earlier had guessed that's why I'd come, I just rolled with it. Sounded like some kind of duel where people actually died. I'd figure out the specifics later. If I could fight, I'd fight. If not, I'd stall until midnight and try to fuse back with my main body to escape. Right as I was thinking that, Lin Jing responded again. Report your record, at Jiang Ye. My cover felt like it was about to blow wide open. What the hell did record mean here? Asking outright would make me look clueless. Guessing wrong would look even worse. 100-win streak, a life-or-death duel, it probably just meant win streak, right? I hesitated, then answered cautiously. 4-win streak in the duel room, does that count? The chat went dead silent. For a long stretch, nobody said anything. Wang Chengjin, bro, are you kidding me? You don't even have a 10-win streak and you want to talk life-or-death duels? 1xin, seriously, man? You dragged Lin Jing out here for a 4-win streak? Yuya, no offense, but ha, I genuinely want to see the look on Lin Jing's face right now. Chen Kun, you can imagine mine, probably identical. So I guessed the meaning correctly. But apparently 4 wins was laughably weak. What was I supposed to do? It really was just 4 wins. And since when was 4 wins trash? I'd only played 4 matches. What if, by the time I hit 100 matches, it actually turned into a 100-win streak? Maybe I'd even beat Lin Jing to the milestone. Wasn't there some old saying about never underestimating the young and broke? I stared silently at the wall of laughter, then decided, screw it, it's just a replica. Time to get thick-skinned. So I dropped a bold line into the chat. What if I hit a 100-win streak before your Lin God does? Dead silence again. After a long pause, someone finally replied. Bro, if you're going to brag, at least make it believable. Exactly. Do you even know what 100 consecutive wins actually means? Do you know how many wins Lin Jing's already got? I thought to myself, honestly, no, didn't know, didn't want to know. Just talking trash for fun here, folks, please don't take it too seriously. I had no idea how to walk any of this back now. Then, finally, a highly respected Lin Jing responded directly. Well, responded wasn't quite the word. It read more like a command. You've got 10 minutes. Land a 10-win streak, and we'll let you join us. If you don't, we'll send you off. That phrase, send you off, was obviously the same kind of euphemism Yang Wenchao had used right before reuniting Wang Rui with her parents. Watching quietly from a hidden corner of the rooftop, 1xin couldn't help thinking the arrogant bald guy was probably about to tuck tail and run. After all, 10 wins in 10 minutes was absurd, even with a 4-win streak already banked, meaning only 6 more needed. The 5th and 10th matches were both win streak blockers, run specifically by veteran players. Under normal circumstances, someone could just buy the 5-win and 10-win packages and skip those blockers entirely. But this bald guy had already made an enemy of the Duo organization, the very people running those win streak services, which meant he'd have to clear both blockers on pure skill, and probably get specifically targeted by Duo operatives while doing it. In fact, because of him, Duo had linked over 1 million veteran duel machines into the shared system. That didn't mean 1 million players were actively online, but it meant the odds of drawing a veteran in an ordinary match had spiked dramatically. Under those conditions, 10 wins in 10 minutes seemed close to impossible. Which meant, logically, the smart move now was. What none of these veterans realized was that I'd already been trying to run for a while. The problem was simple: I didn't have the funds to leave. All I could do was grit my teeth and keep up the act. So, in the chat, I fired back with a reply that sounded bold as anything. Okay, no problem. But you're all big names here, right? I'm assuming none of you would go back on your word and start talking nonsense afterward, yeah? Wildly cocky tone, like I actually had confidence in landing 10 wins in 10 minutes, and my only real concern was whether Lin Jing would honor the deal. The chat went quiet for a long stretch again. Then came a barrage of sarcasm. Wow, someone sure thinks highly of himself. Exactly, one life's only worth one survival point. With Lin Jing's strength, he wouldn't even blink at losing that. Do you even know what it means to win 10 matches in 10 minutes? It means your value would equal basically unlimited survival points. Nobody would be dumb enough to break their word and kill you after pulling that off. Then Lin Jing himself dropped the final word. 1xin, take him to the 99th floor. 10 minutes, timer starts the second he steps into the duel machine. My main body was still lying paralyzed on the 20th floor. But my replica had already swaggered its way up to the 99th. I looked over this crowd of veterans. None of them seemed like the type to lure me into some elaborate trap just to kill me outright. Besides, I genuinely had no money to run with, so I gritted my teeth and went all in. When someone lurking near the top floor finally revealed himself and waved me over, alright, bluffing or not, if you're going for the 10-win streak, follow me, I didn't hesitate. I walked calmly from the console toward him. That name had stuck with me, last on the ranking board, sitting just above where I now registered myself. Also the first person in the chat to identify me as the bald man who'd beaten Jiang Ye. Sure enough, he nodded in confirmation. He wore the same black tactical jacket as Yang Wenchao, dark-skinned, strong-featured, young-looking, with the bearing of someone who'd served in the military. 1xin sized me up as we walked, an odd flicker of surprise crossing his face. I didn't understand it at first, until I glanced at the chat and realized he'd just posted my entire data panel publicly for everyone to see. Was privacy just a dead concept now? The veterans in the chat were already dissecting it. Damn, really is level 1, barely over 50 combat power. And only an S-tier ability at that. This panel looks weak as hell. And it doesn't even look like he's maxed his attribute fruits. And with that, he's claiming he can pull off 10 wins in 10 minutes? 10 wins at all would already be a miracle. No, wait, you guys are missing the real point. This guy clearly used an ice-type skill against Jiang Ye, looked like a full domain skill even. If he used an ice-type domain, why doesn't his panel show any ice affinity or ice skills at all? I bet he's hiding his real strength. That hard work pays off ability's probably just a front, he's probably got a hidden ice-type ability too. Dual abilities? Honestly, hard work pays off paired with literally anything else is a genuine 1+1 greater than 2 combo. Pair it with an ice ability and yeah, this guy's legitimately strong, earns the right to be this arrogant. But that still doesn't add up, even hiding a second ability, how do you explain the combat power? When he matched with Jiang Ye, it sat in the 50s, and everyone knows the duel room's matchmaking can't be faked. So, his panel really is exactly as weak as it looks? What if that ice-type domain was just a one-time forbidden scroll? No way, right? How much could he even have earned beating Jiang Ye? Even if she's rich, 5 million tops, a one-time forbidden scroll costing that much? He'd be losing money even at 10 times that price. Maybe someone hired him specifically to break her 9-win streak, not about the money at all? Hired by who? Who hates Jiang Ye enough to spend that kind of money just to ruin her day? My panel and my actual performance against Jiang Ye clearly didn't line up, and none of their theories quite fit either. They kept dissecting it right there in the open chat, like I wasn't even standing in the room. Wan Xin, reading along the whole time, used a poster-shaped teleport item to bring me up to the 99th floor. The entire floor looked similar in scale to the rooftop, massive. No hallways, no apartment doors, just one enormous open space, though this one had a proper ceiling. Rows upon rows of dual machines filled it, sleeker and taller than the 20 on our own apartment's first floor. The whole place had the feel of some luxury internet cafe, or maybe a professional esports lounge. Around dual machine number 1, 7 or 8 spectators had gathered, with scattered onlookers at a few other machines too. Every one of them wore the same black tactical jacket, clearly some kind of standard uniform among these veteran players. The moment the group outside the machine spotted Wan Xin returning with me in tow, every head turned. It felt like getting hit with a dozen detection spells all at once. A burly guy walked up from beside machine number 1 and went straight in. "How about you explain this? How does someone with a panel like yours manage to one-shot Jiang Ye?" I stayed on guard internally while keeping up the calm, cool exterior. Slow, composed, with a bit of flair. "I'm here for the 10-win streak." Subtext: "Not here to answer your questions." He paused, then smirked. "Heh, all right. Then go get your 10 wins. 10 minutes from now, let's see how tough you're still acting with that kind of strength." I looked calm on the outside. Inside, I was panicking. I was confident about the wins themselves. 10 minutes, though? Not so much. That meant one-shotting literally every opponent, and creating a fresh replica alone burned 30 seconds each time. On top of that, any match that drew spectators would stretch the pre-fight window from 3 seconds to a full 2 minutes, just to let more people crowd in and watch. Get unlucky with 6 spectated matches in a row and that alone was 12 minutes gone. Matches against veteran streak blockers were supposedly spectator-free by default, so the 5-win and 10-win milestone fights wouldn't eat that extra time regardless of luck. But I'd already made enemies of exactly those streak-blocking veterans. Could I still one-shot my way through the upcoming blockers reliably? Honestly, I wasn't confident at all. Right at that moment, my main body generated its 4th replica. Even with the luck item still active, this one's panel came back thoroughly ordinary. Ability, Energy Enhancement, B. A plain stat-boosting ability, no starting skill attached. Completely useless for the situation I was in right now. Meanwhile, back in the actual apartment, it had been a while since Xing Man's last message. By now, logically, he should have already broken into Bai Ruowan's room. But there'd been no stream of horror unfolding in the chat, and her name hadn't gone gray either. The despairing classmates started allowing themselves a flicker of hope. Maybe Yang Wenchao, unable to just stand by, had finally gone to save her. But I suspected something simpler. Xing Man had already proven he could force his way into rooms. Which meant the smarter classmates whose room numbers had leaked probably hadn't sat around waiting to die. Bai Ruowan had likely already left her room before he ever got there. Lucian probably had too. Which meant Xing Man might well be heading toward my own place next. To keep my main body safe and my replica secret intact while dealing with him, I'd need replica fusion ready to go. Just to be safe, I decided to fuse replica 4 and the mirror copy into replica 3, locking in real strength around my main body. That would leave replica 2 without any fusion backup for a while, but there wasn't much choice. Back on the 99th floor of apartment 9999, I decided to buy myself some time before actually starting the 10-win streak. Conveniently, I had something on hand perfect for stalling. As the burly man, Wang Chengjin, and Wan Xin moved to drag me toward an open duel machine, I deliberately pulled out the little test tube holding the woman in white's captured hair, trying to think up a good story to spin out of it. Unexpectedly, Wan Xin spotted it and blurted, "Holy, that's an NPC item? You took an NPC quest?" Wang Chengjin glanced over too, surprised for a second, before scoffing. "Don't tell me you think an NPC quest makes you special. If you can't finish your 10-win streak in 10 minutes, I don't care whose quest it is, you're still dead." I thought it over, held the little tube up to eye level, and asked, genuinely curious, how'd you two recognize this as an NPC item on site? Elsewhere, by Ruoan, trembling, watching the chat with wide, terrified eyes, was creeping deeper into the darkened hallway, the light thinning with every step. A monster could jump out at any moment. The darkness and uncertainty were terrifying. But Xingman was worse, suffocatingly so. Pale as a sheet, she finally spotted a familiar shape at the far end of the corridor, and every tear she'd been holding back broke loose at once. Sister Ling, Wanwan, Gao Chang, Lu Shen, her voice cracked through the sobs. You were really hiding here. Finding the mutual aid group felt like finding family. She couldn't help it, Xingman's presence had been too overwhelming, and with no way to fight back, of course she was terrified. Wang Lingling and the others had been huddled together, quietly deep in discussion. Su Yuewan's eyes lit up at the sight of her. Wanwan, you actually didn't just sit in your room like a dummy. But how did you know we'd be here? Bai Ruoan hiccuped, steadying herself. I didn't dare go to the first floor, that felt like a guaranteed trap. And I didn't know where else to go. Then I remembered you'd all been fighting monsters with Yang Wenchao deep in the third floor hallway. This was the only place besides the first floor our whole group had ever gathered. I had nowhere else, so I came on a whim, and actually found you. The chat had gone unusable for sending messages by then, but Bai Ruoan trusted the mutual aid group wouldn't just sit idle while Xingman rampaged, and that instinct had led her here. You're all discussing how to deal with him, right? Then her eyes lit up further. Yang Xiuman's here too. Yang Xiaoman nodded slightly, lips pressed thin. Xingman's far too arrogant. If we don't stop him soon, he might kill all of us. Bai Ruoan shrank back a little. So, do you have a plan? Yu Ziyu let out a breath. We were in the middle of planning when you scared the life out of us showing up. They were about to continue when Lu Shen shot Wang Lingling a meaningful look. Honestly, even with all of us ambushing him together, our odds still aren't great. Sister Ling, you've been holding back. He kept going, confident. Everyone else in the mutual aid group showed their full data panel openly. Yours only ever came through as plain text in the chat. I suspected back then it wasn't the real thing. And later, when you said you'd used Shadow Replica but had no shared vision with it, and it just died, locking the skill for 24 hours, that's when I really started doubting it. Shadow Replica's an A-tier skill. No perspective sharing at all? Even if it genuinely died in that hallway, a full day of cooldown? That's a stretch. He pressed on. So, Sister Ling, you've probably been sitting on real strength this whole time. Even agreeing to team up with Yang Wenchao to level, there had to be some confidence behind that. Quite the confident theory. He'd clearly suspected her for a while. Wang Lingling just gave him a look and said nothing. The group returned to planning the ambush. Can't pick the 20th floor, no way we're getting up there. Needs to be somewhere dim, easy for a sneak attack, and reachable by everyone for a coordinated strike. They genuinely had a shot, numbers on their side, real fighters like Wang Lingling, Gao Chang, and Yang Xiaoman, plus the element of surprise. Lu Shen was about to keep analyzing when Wang Lingling suddenly cut herself off mid-sentence. She adjusted her glasses, expression turning solemn. But before that, there's something more important. Everyone looked at her, confused. Then, in the next instant, a cold glint flashed out of the shadows. A figure's eyes went wide before slowly collapsing to the ground, a heavy thud following the fall. The whole group froze, rigid. Bai Ruoan, who'd only just arrived, nearly buckled at the knees, too paralyzed by fear to even make a sound. She turned her head stiffly and saw it, a skeleton warrior, its frame like tempered steel, standing right behind the fallen figure. Every eye snapped to Wang Lingling at once, subtle fear rippling through the group. That skeleton warrior had to be one of her dark element skills, something she'd never once shown during their earlier leveling sessions. Even just Black Whirlwind paired with strong stats had already made her one of the strongest in the group. Exactly as Lu Shen said, she'd been hiding real power all along. But why had she suddenly killed someone? Just because Lucian had exposed her hidden strength out loud? Several people instinctively backed away, half expecting her to strike again. Even so, Lucian, tense, but with real nerve, spoke up. "So this is the more important matter you mentioned?" Wang Lingling's gaze stayed calm as she nodded slowly. Lucian turned to the rest of the group, deliberately keeping his tone light. "Honestly, I'd suspected you too, for a while, just kept it to myself out of respect for classmate loyalty. But didn't any of you find it strange? He was the one managing our registry. And now that registry's in Xingman's hands, and yet Yu Ziyu himself came out completely unharmed. Didn't any of you wonder about that?" The realization landed instantly. The registry had ended up with Xingman, and yet Yu Ziyu hadn't been touched at all? With his level of strength, how could he possibly have escaped Xingman on his own? And how had Xingman even known about the registry to begin with? Betrayal, maybe. But Wang Lingling hadn't asked a single question before striking him down. What if she'd killed the wrong person? What if he'd actually been innocent? Bai Ruoan, only just arrived, felt real terror settle over her, afraid Wang Lingling might strike again, might turn around and accuse her of being Xingman's mole too. She took 2 steps back. Moments ago, seeing Wang Lingling had felt like finding family. Now she looked like a stranger entirely, someone no longer quite a classmate, but something else. A warlord, maybe. Not because Wang Lingling actually radiated that kind of aura, but because Bai Ruoan found herself thinking of an old historical story, the falling out between Cao Cao and Chen Gong, the killing of Lu Bosh. To this day, people still argued whether the death had been a paranoid tyrant's mistake or a justified strike against a real threat. She'd never know for certain here either, whether Yu Ziyu had genuinely betrayed them, or been executed unjustly. But his death, and the strength Wang Lingling had kept hidden until now, seemed to whisper the same lesson: the mutual aid group had never been born from pure protective instinct. Same as any ruler's claim to love talent, underneath it all, it was interests, plain and simple. Bai Ruoan didn't dare retreat another step. She swallowed hard, eyes frozen. Lucian glanced at her briefly, then turned back to the group. "I don't think Sister Ling did anything wrong here. How the registry ended up with Xingman was suspicious to begin with. If Yu Ziyu really was compromised, then he died without injustice. Compare that to Gazining and Yang Wei, they did nothing wrong, and Xingman killed them anyway. If even someone as strong as Sister Ling gets questioned for cutting down a traitor, then what, do we want every powerful person in this apocalypse acting like Xingman, killing at will for no reason at all? Pure sophistry, really." But the group understood the underlying point clearly enough: Xingman killed without reason. Wang Lingling had a reason. Which meant, functionally, she was already the stronger, more disciplined party, someone who could have gone on the same kind of rampage and chose not to. That restraint said everything. The old moral standards, in this new world, could only ever bind the weak, never the strong. Whether Yu Ziyu had actually betrayed them or not, he was a traitor now, simply because Wang Lingling had decided he was. Maybe some updated version of pointing at a deer and calling it a horse. The difference here was that nobody could even tell whether he'd truly been the deer or the horse to begin with. Sui Yuan glanced at pale, shaken Bai Ruoan, then at Lucian, and offered deliberate praise. "Lucian really does live up to his reputation. Can't believe I never suspected Yu Ziyu myself." Gao Chang eyed the steel-gray skeleton warrior's cold, intimidating presence, pursed his lips, and nodded. "I was so focused on that arrogant Xingman, I never even considered Yu Ziyu." Others chimed in one after another, admitting they'd been too scared of Xingman to think about anyone else, agreeing that if Yu Ziyu had really died the instant the registry landed in enemy hands, that would have made more sense. His survival alone was the real red flag. Bai Ruoan, watching it all unfold, wasn't even surprised anymore. She forced herself upright, took 2 hesitant steps forward, and echoed weakly, "Right, Lucian's read on things is always spot on." Sounds like Yu Ziyu really was suspicious. The moment she said it, she noticed Wang Lingling's gaze fixed directly on her, and her heart nearly stopped. Because if mere suspicion was reason enough to kill someone, then anyone could be accused of anything at any moment. She was supposed to have already been killed by Xingman in her own room, and here she was instead. Wasn't that suspicious too? The hope she'd felt finding this group collapsed instantly into fresh despair. She looked desperately at Lu Xin. They joined the mutual aid group together, surely he'd speak up for her. He was clearly watching Wang Lingling for cues, with no intention of stepping in. Instead, Wang Lingling shifted her gaze away from Bai Ruowan entirely and addressed the group, solemn. We posted our monster hunting spot on the 3rd floor in the chat earlier. Every classmate saw it. I don't believe any of them are loyal enough to keep that a secret under real pressure. Their classmates, in all likelihood, would spill everything the moment a blade came near their face. So if Bai Ruowan found this place, Xingman probably can too. We need to move, and quickly. Nobody dared object once she called it. But Lu Xin, ever the schemer, lowered his voice with a glint in his eye. If we can feed him false intel while we relocate, even better. Let him straight into an ambush. A solid idea, in theory. But how? We leave a message here, framed like it's meant for other mutual aid members who might pass through. Really, it's bait for Xingman. When he finds this spot and reads it, he follows the trail straight to us. The others weren't fully convinced. That kind of layered scheming, they'd only ever seen it play out in the old Three Kingdoms stories. Could they actually predict someone's behavior that precisely in real life? Su Yuan, the top student among them, backed Lu Xin up. From what I've seen, Xingman's no genius, worse than Lu Bu, honestly, if we're keeping with the Three Kingdoms comparison. His arrogance is purely a product of getting lucky with strong abilities. Classic nouveau riche, gets a little power, immediately loses his head over it. Judging by how he's been talking in the chat, like he's going door to door on a slaughter tour, if he keeps finding empty rooms, he's going to get furious. He'll want to know where everyone he missed actually went. Then he'll torture someone until they point him toward the 3rd floor. He gets here, finds nothing, gets even angrier. And once he stumbles on the note we leave, rage turns straight into excitement, and he rushes in to finish us off. With that ego of his, it won't even cross his mind that we dare set a trap. She paused. The only real risk is whether that thick skull of his actually finds the message at all. Would be perfect if we had a plant inside his circle. Wang Lingling seemed willing to try it. After a moment, though, she added, this could work, but it's too passive. We'd be entirely at the mercy of his own timing, waiting for him to torture someone, waiting for him to stumble onto the note. We have no idea when any of that actually happens. The initiative stays entirely in his hands. The group fell quiet again. Then Wang Lingling said, out of nowhere, actually, I want to protect Jiang Ye. Everyone turned to her, stunned. She didn't elaborate. Instead, she turned her attention back to Bai Ruowan, whose face went pale all over again under that gaze. Bai Ruowan used to think of Wang Lingling as simply a classmate. Now she was someone with real power. Bai Ruowan could barely bring herself to call her sister Ling anymore. What actually wanted to come out was boss. Thankfully, the boss didn't seem interested in killing her right then. Instead, she asked, you like the Three Kingdoms, right? You know the ruse of self-injury? Bai Ruowan understood immediately. I'm supposed to be Huang Gai? Wang Lingling shook her head. No need to suffer for it. You don't even have to risk your life going anywhere near Xingman to play the part. Your nerves aren't strong enough for that, and your acting's not great either, you'd get caught the moment you tried. So, what do I do then? Wang Lingling stayed calm, laying it out with clean precision. You just died. Given the chat's member list, the others will have noticed by now, it's only the current tension keeping everyone quiet about it. So you're going to post in the chat. Accuse me. Say I suspected you of betrayal and killed him, and now I suspect you too, and I'm about to kill you as well. Play it desperate, panicked, incoherent messages. And through that panic, leak information to Xingman. Far faster than waiting around for him to stumble onto them naturally. If it worked, it might even delay whatever plan he had brewing to head for the 20th floor after me. A real shot at buying my safety. On top of that, Bai Ruoan's performance could make the mutual aid group look like it was already collapsing from internal suspicion and infighting, exactly the kind of thing that would lower Xingman's guard. Lu Xin and Su Yuan exchanged a glance, both agreeing it was a good move. Preparation still needed to happen on their end, but Bai Ruoan's betrayal needed to start immediately. Too long a gap after Yu Ziyu's death and the whole thing would read as fake. While the others scrambled to prepare, Bai Ruoan began her performance in the chat, still smarting a little from being told her acting was subpar, determined this time to shock everyone. Meanwhile, I had no idea any of this was happening. I was still waiting in room 2025 for Xingman to arrive, figuring the whole crisis would be over the moment I took him down. I'd noticed Yu Ziyu's name go gray, but hadn't thought much of it. He'd probably been doomed the second the registry landed in enemy hands, and had likely only lasted this long because he was being tortured for information. What actually caught me off guard was an SOS from Bai Ruoan flashing into the chat. Bai Ruoan, help me, someone save me. My heart skipped. Had she finally been found? Had Xingman gotten her instead of coming to the 20th floor? Right as that thought crossed my mind, a knock landed on my apartment door. He'd finally come. I snapped into full battle readiness. My main body retreated into the most remote room in the apartment, the heart guard jade resting against its chest, the lucky bracelet on its wrist. It held a pitch-black syringe too, pulled from Huang Qi's spatial watch, 2 doses of poison still loaded inside, along with a scroll capable of a random teleport, held in reserve, not to be used unless absolutely necessary. The randomness made it a last resort, no telling where it might dump me. Huang Qi hadn't used his before he died, probably for the exact same reason. According to plan, nobody should ever reach the room where my main body was hiding. Even if Xingman brought backup with him, though that seemed unlikely, since even a wealthy leader like him probably didn't have many followers actually living on the 20th floor. The numbers breaking in shouldn't be overwhelming. Once fused, I figured I could finish this fight inside of 3 minutes. With that, my full attention shifted to Replica 3's preparations, enough that I'd let my focus on Replica 2, still stuck in apartment 9999, slip a little. My heartbeat synced with the knocking. I had the mirror copy check the peephole. Through the dim light, a blurry figure was working at the doorknob with something in hand, a black card of some kind. It really did look like Xingman. Meanwhile, in the chat, Bai Ruoan was still crying for help. Confusing, since Xingman was right outside my own door, why would she be the one calling out? Then everyone got hit with her next message. Help me, help! Wang Lingling is trying to kill me. Someone save me. Not Xingman chasing her at all. Wang Lingling? Class 1 and 2 froze in confusion. She kept going. It's true. Yu Ziyu was killed by Wang Lingling too. She said the registry going from Yu Ziyu to Xingman meant he'd betrayed us, since he didn't die. Now she's saying I ran into Xingman and survived too, so I must have joined him. What do I do? No matter what I say, she won't believe me. She's dead set on killing me. Wang Lingling, she's just looking for excuses to kill people. She wants survival points. She wants to become like Xingman or Yang Wenchao. But I don't want to die yet. What do I do? My attention stayed locked on the door that could give way any second, but part of my mind was still processing her messages. Wang Lingling, chasing power like Xingman and Yang Wenchao? Killing Yu Ziyu, and now going after Bai Ruoan too? I genuinely wasn't sure what to make of it. I believed Yu Ziyu really had died at Wang Lingling's hand, and there was a decent chance it really had been over betrayal. But Bai Ruoan's account was harder to judge. Maybe, exactly as she said, Wang Lingling had finally cracked and wanted a taste of that same power Xingman and Yang Wenchao seemed to wield so freely, using a manufactured excuse to justify it. Or maybe Yu Ziyu and Bai Ruoan really had defected, and Wang Lingling had caught it, killed one, and the other had simply gotten away and turned the story around. Or maybe she just erred on the side of caution, better to kill a possible traitor than risk letting one slide. Whatever the actual reason, she clearly had grounds to justify killing either of them. But something still nagged at me. It had been Wang Lingling herself who'd originally proposed that anyone under attack should post in the chat immediately to expose their attacker. So if she really meant to kill Bai Ruoan now, why would she let her have the chance to expose her at all? Unless she never actually intended to kill her in the first place. A new possibility took shape in my mind, and the more I turned it over, the more it surprised me. Just how strong was Wang Lingling's group, really? Were they actually planning some kind of counter-strike against Xingman? While that self-injury performance played out in the chat, an even harder knock landed on my door. He'd been out there this whole time without ever forcing his way in, just knocking on and off, deeply annoying. It made me wonder whether I should just open the door myself and get this over with. Right as I hesitated, the mirror copy caught something new through the peephole, the shadowy figure now visibly frustrated, swiping that black card near the doorknob again and again, clearly irritated that it wasn't working. He couldn't get the door open? Confused and suspicious in equal measure, I watched as, outside, he finally gave up trying to force it and stepped back. With that, his shadowy shape came into clearer view. It really was Xingman, no mistaking it now. Still baffled, I watched as a new message appeared in the chat, tagging me directly. 2025, did you fill in a fake room number on the registry? At Jiang Ye. Guess your mutual aid group isn't as united as it looks. First someone fakes a room number, now your own leader's out here killing her own teammates. Ha ha, what a wonderful display of human nature. I know exactly what some of you are still thinking, clinging to the idea that Yu Ziyu and Bai Ruoan really did defect to me, and Wang Lingling had good reason to kill them? Use your brains. Do I look like I need those level 0 small fries on my side? Let me tell you something, guys like Wang Chang, Kazining, Yang Wei, they all begged to serve me like dogs the moment death was staring them down. I don't need garbage dogs like that. Wang Lingling didn't kill because she suspected traitors. She's finally seeing the truth of this apartment. She's waking up. She's learning from me. She wants to become a real powerhouse, just like I am. Too bad, though, it's already too late for her. At Wang Lingling, you've missed your chance to ever become a true powerhouse. Bai Ruoan's accusation had somehow turned into Xingman's own personal stage. The whole chat became a wall of his domineering posturing, occasionally interrupted by her continued, increasingly desperate cries for help. Eventually, seemingly annoyed by the interruption, he tagged her directly. Where exactly is Wang Lingling chasing you? I'll come save you. At Bai Ruoan. Under normal circumstances, she'd never have believed something like that for a second. But she was genuinely panicking by then, all rational thought gone, and her chaotic pleas in the chat had a noticeable delay before she even registered who'd offered. Like grabbing a lifeline without checking whose hand held the other end. It's where we teamed up to level before, the 3rd floor hallway. Hurry, please come save me. Then, seeming to catch herself, panic spiking again. Wait, Xingman? No, is there anyone else who can come save me? By then she genuinely looked like she was losing her mind. Xingman didn't respond again, just turned and headed straight for the red-lit elevator. Back in my apartment, I was left completely dumbfounded. Wait, hadn't he been about to bust down my door? He hadn't even gotten it open. And now he was implying the room number on the registry had been faked, right after standing outside it? Was it because he genuinely couldn't get in? Some kind of trick? Had he sensed danger? Or were there specific conditions required to force entry, conditions my room, for whatever reason, didn't meet? I'd braced for a full confrontation, and now my opponent had just walked away. Genuinely anticlimactic. Should I chase him down and finish it now? What if it was a trap? What if stepping outside played right into his hands, some overpowered trump card waiting? Too much uncertainty. I held back, switched over to Replica 4 to guard the door and keep watch through the peephole, and let it go for now. Back in apartment 9999, after I'd asked Wang Chengjin and Wan Xian how they'd recognized the NPC item on site, both of them shot me another strange look. That made me nervous. Had I just exposed my rookie status again? Fortunately, Wan Xin seemed to land on his own explanation and answered instead. Duh, with our level of detection skills, if an item in a beginner apartment comes back showing all question marks, it's automatically an NPC item. I thought that over. Since I was likely dead anyway if I couldn't land 10 wins in 10 minutes, I wasn't especially worried about looking clueless at this point. So I followed up, genuinely curious. So survival point exchange items would never show all question marks either? Just idle curiosity on my end. But both of them froze up again, eyes turning shocked, almost stunned. Moments earlier, Wang Chengjin had been talking to me with open disdain. Now his expression turned complicated. After a long pause, he said, slowly, items exchanged for survival points can exceed beginner apartment standards entirely. Then, after a beat, the rest of it. But you could actually afford something that costs over 10,000 survival points? Sounded like mockery on the surface, but his tone carried real weight underneath it. My two clueless questions had apparently sent both of these veterans spiraling. They had no idea I was actually a total rookie, so naturally, they assumed someone this mysterious wouldn't waste breath on pointless questions. Which meant, putting both questions together in their minds, maybe this item wasn't an NPC item at all. And if it wasn't NPC issued, and it still returned all question marks under their detection, how insanely powerful would that actually make it? 10,000 survival points was just their rough floor estimate. Was this the very item that had spooked the duo organization and let this mysterious bald man one-shot Jiang Ye? Could it really be the reason behind a 10-win streak in 10 minutes? For a moment, both of them couldn't help a flicker of genuine greed, though neither could be sure, since racking up 10,000 plus survival points in this short a window seemed almost impossible on its face. I, of course, had no idea any of that was running through their heads. I'd asked purely out of curiosity, trying to learn something useful. Hearing Wang Chengjin's answer, my first reaction was simple. So if an item costs more than 10,000 survival points, detection just shows question marks across the board? And if NPC items show the exact same result, doesn't that mean NPC items are worth at least 10,000 points too? The second I said it, both of them went stunned speechless all over again, their expressions growing even stranger. How could I ask something this absurd? Was I genuinely clueless, or deliberately playing dumb to throw them off, maybe noticing their subtle greed in dropping that line specifically to convince them the test tube really was just an ordinary NPC item, nothing worth coveting? They'd only started suspecting it wasn't NPC issued because of my earlier questions in the first place. Now they were more baffled by me than ever. Wang Chengjin, especially, stopped bothering to answer at all and just frowned hard. Are you playing mind games with us, or just stalling for time? I felt genuinely helpless. I really didn't know, okay? Was it too late to just admit I was a clueless rookie at this point? Thanks to my earlier big talk in the chat, both of them were already holding a grudge, fully committed now to a win 10 straight or die trying stance. They stopped entertaining any more questions and picked up the pace instead, dragging me toward an open duel machine. Wan Xin pulled out a timer. No one can accuse us of being unfair about this. I'll start the clock 30 seconds after you go in. Get in there and start your challenge. Genuinely generous, that 30-second buffer. Still, never one to follow the script, I threw in one more curveball. Hey, can I borrow some game currency off one of you? Or maybe take out a loan from the administrator here? I mean, if I'm doing this 10-win streak anyway, might as well try to profit off it too. Wan Xin went speechless. Wang Chengjin snapped outright. Shut the hell up already and get in there and hurry up and die. Sounded ready to physically shove me into the machine himself. I had no choice but to walk toward it. Meanwhile, Replica 1 had also started moving, not toward a confrontation with Xingman, but sneaking quietly toward apartment 2064, the woman in white's unit. Yang Wenchao's suggestion finally acted on. With her off chasing the bald guy, this was the perfect window for a little unofficial cleaning service. Looting, in other words. Just as Replica 2 was about to step into the duel machine, and Replica 1 was about to slip into room 2064, Wang Chengjin, who'd been hurrying me along the whole time, suddenly let out a horrified shout. Voices like that erupted one after another, non-stop, and that eerie, chilling signature of dark element energy spread instantly across the entire 99th floor. Players inside the high-end duel machine stayed unaffected, but everyone outside them wasn't so lucky, though nobody could actually spot an enemy. Only a handful of players with especially sharp senses managed to trace it. The ghostly wind was coming from the ceiling, more than 5 meters overhead. Heads turned upward, and what they saw was the entire ceiling laced with dense black lines, like cracked fissures from a distance. Except cracks don't move. These were slithering, faintly hissing, not fractures at all, but something alive. While the rest of the veterans stood frozen, on guard against this sudden threat, Wang Chengjin and Wan Xin both snapped their heads toward me. More precisely, toward the test tube in my hand. That hair inside, wasn't it made of the exact same fine black threads? Was this whole disturbance my doing? What the hell was I trying to do, take on the entire apartment single-handedly? Right as that thought crossed their minds, a chilling female voice echoed down from the ceiling, cold and condescending. Before I truly lose my temper, give me back my hair. Each of those final 3 words landed like its own separate blow. Hearing it, both Wang Chengjin and Wan Xin realized instantly this wasn't my doing at all. The real story: I'd stolen an NPC item, and its owner had come to collect. Too rattled by the oppressive presence overhead to speak aloud, Wan Xin vented straight into the chat instead. No way? This guy's got balls of steel. Not only did he mess with the duo organization, now he's pissed off an NPC too? Wang Chengjin couldn't help himself either. Wait, so he didn't even come to 99.99 for a life or death duel? He just came here to hide? Other players, still catching up, chimed in with disbelief that ceiling-level threat was here because of the new guy? He'd stolen an NPC item, that juicy? Did he actually think anyone here had the nerve to go toe-to-toe with an NPC on his behalf? Even if they had the guts, nobody was risking that for some random newcomer. Someone pointed out the scale of it. I'd come from another apartment, which meant I'd angered a cross-apartment NPC specifically. That tier of entity was probably second only to the apartment boss itself, maybe even stronger than the administrator. They were already pushing their luck just planning to fight an administrator, and this guy had the nerve to provoke something at boss tier? Wan Xin summed it up. I swear this guy's brain is broken. Privately, the one being accused of brain damage just wanted to sigh. Damn you, Yang Wenchao. I'm coming back to kill you. Elsewhere, in apartment 1008, Yang Wenchao sneezed. He'd briefly considered taking advantage of the woman in white being off chasing the bald guy to raid room 2064 himself, then reconsidered. That was a cross-apartment NPC. Not something you messed with casually. Honestly, when he'd handed off that NPC item in the first place, he hadn't been trying to screw anyone over. NPCs capable of crossing apartments were exceedingly rare. According to his own plan, as long as I fled to another apartment with the item, she wouldn't be able to do anything unless I came back voluntarily, since ordinary NPCs simply couldn't follow. Who could have guessed I'd stumble into one of the rare ones that actually could? Not his fault, as far as he was concerned. If anyone deserved the blame, it was Jiang Ye, just spectacularly unlucky, taking a random cleaning gig and running straight into an NPC boss of that caliber. Then again, sometimes extreme bad luck and extreme good luck sit only a hair's breadth apart. All depended on whether the bald man could turn it around. He wasn't even a real game player, after all. I wasn't feeling especially optimistic myself. According to what Yang Wenchao had told me earlier, apartment NPCs didn't actively hunt down players. So if I simply handed the test tube back to her now, everything should settle. At worst, I'd be out the 2 items I'd bought to steal the hair in the first place, 300,000 in currency. Real money to me right now, sure, but nothing compared to the life of a replica. Just as I was leaning toward returning it and calling this whole thing over, something else occurred to me. Both Yang Wenchao and I had been ambushed by monsters before, him by that giant cockroach in the duel room, me by the venomous snake in the 20th floor hallway. And according to him, those ambushes had been triggered by our stealing packages. But the actual attackers hadn't been NPCs themselves. They'd been monsters. Looked at from that angle, maybe NPCs genuinely couldn't attack players directly. But what if they could simply unleash monsters they'd trained specifically for that purpose instead? What if the moment I handed this hair back, some powerful creature appeared out of nowhere and finished me on the spot? If she were truly powerful enough, couldn't she just rip the hair away from me by force? But she hadn't. She'd given me the chance to hand it over voluntarily instead. A light bulb went off. I remembered something from the cleaning job itself. Her little assistant robot had warned that every single strand of hair was incredibly precious, and that if even one was damaged, the consequences would fall on whoever caused it. Maybe that was exactly why she hadn't just seized it by force. She was afraid of damaging it herself. What I was holding wasn't just stolen property. It was leverage. A hostage, essentially. Handed over too easily, and things could still go badly for me. I tightened my grip on the test tube, hard enough to look like I might crush it at any moment, and let my expression settle into something calm. Looking up at the ceiling, I said, "Sister Bai, calm down. I have zero interest in your hair. But if you scare me too badly and I accidentally damage the strand, wouldn't that be a loss for both of us?" Friendly enough on the surface, with a clear undertone of threat beneath it. The chill on the 99th floor sharpened instantly. Plenty of players shivered, like a cold snake had slithered right up their spine. At the same time, they all noticed the bald man bold enough to talk back to a cross-apartment NPC was still calmly sending messages into the chat, on top of it all. By the way, does anyone know what happens to these NPCs when a beginner apartment gets destroyed? The chat went quiet for a moment before one xin answered. In the actual game, NPCs are just data. If the beginner apartment gets wiped, their data gets wiped with it. But in this real-life version, none of us actually know what happens. Yuya added, probably destroyed the same way, right? Erased along with the apartment? I followed up. What about the apartment boss? One xin answered that one clearly enough. The boss should be fine. Once we clear the beginner apartment and move on to the actual Doomsday Apartment city, we'll still be interacting with the boss there. So the boss is probably some high-tier NPC that exists beyond the beginner apartments map entirely. Wang Chengjin agreed. Exactly. For the boss, the beginner apartment's probably just a minor property. Even if players stir up chaos here, the boss usually doesn't bother getting involved directly, leaves it all to the administrator. Most likely the boss spends this whole stretch out in the wider Doomsday Apartment city instead. While that brief exchange played out, the cold female voice from the ceiling spoke again, aimed directly at me. "You're threatening me?" She sounded genuinely furious, ready to strike at any moment. But I kept my voice steady. "I just want to talk about something before I hand the hair back." Silence from above, no response, but no attack either. I didn't drag it out, holding the test tube firm. "Did you know the apartment gets destroyed in 10 days? Even the veterans of 9999 looked stunned at that. What the hell was I doing, telling an NPC that outright? Tired of living? Normally, when a beginner apartment neared destruction, usually around day 8 to 10, right as veteran players started arriving, every NPC inside sensed the end coming and went berserk. The same thing happened during apartment fusions. And a berserk NPC became genuinely dangerous, willing to ignore the usual rules and attack players directly, under the threat of its own extinction. So was I deliberately trying to provoke a rampage? What surprised them, though, was that this cross-apartment NPC didn't seem emotionally rattled by what I'd said at all, almost like she already knew. Still, she didn't respond. I kept going, calm. Whether it's a fusion or full destruction, that has to cause you some trouble, doesn't it? What if I said, "I'm willing to help solve your problem"? That landed even harder among the 9,999 veterans. Did I even know what I was saying? Solve an NPC's problem? Was I claiming I could keep her alive after the apartment fell apart? Did I actually think a handful of survival stones could save someone at her level? This guy was clearly fishing for a quest from an NPC, one that probably wasn't even completable. Even the woman in white herself seemed genuinely thrown. After a long silence, her voice returned, dripping with scorn. "Ha! Do you even know who exactly you'd have to deal with?" My eyes flickered, a spark of hope rising. If she'd asked, "Do you know how to solve my problem?" I'd have had no idea what to say. But she'd asked who, which narrowed things considerably. A who implied a specific figure. Suddenly this felt like a multiple-choice question. Administrator, or the shadow in the hallway, or... Given everything the 9,999 veterans had just discussed, and her clear disdain toward my offer, it had to be the hardest option on the list. I answered with confidence. "Isn't it the apartment boss?" The moment I said it, the air on the 99th floor went completely rigid. Even the cold energy pouring down from the ceiling seemed unable to move through the sudden stillness. That eerie chill had, somehow, curdled into pure awkwardness instead. Had I guessed right, or catastrophically wrong? The apartment boss really was that difficult a subject, apparently. Made sense, honestly, from everything I gathered. The boss sat far above even the administrator. Even the elite veterans here, pursuing the pay-to-win path, had only ever set their sights on the administrator. Nobody had even entertained the idea of the boss. And according to Yang Wenchao, killing an administrator already required a specific counter-item just to survive the attempt, an already absurd bar. The boss wasn't even a consideration. Had I just bluffed my way into an impossible corner? While I sat there internally scrambling for a graceful retreat, the voice from the now not-so-cold ceiling returned, its tone shifting into something almost curious. "You're sure you really want to deal with the apartment boss?" "That's not what I meant. I didn't mean it. I was just running my mouth. Was it too late to walk it back?" She didn't even wait for an answer before continuing, casual now. "Since you're so eager to take on the apartment boss, I'll give you a quest. Accept it." The veterans around me went completely dumbfounded. An actual NPC quest, out of this? Probably not going to be an easy one. I was just as stunned, because a system prompt rang out in my mind right then. "Apartment resident Insu has issued you an SSS tier confidential quest. Quest objective: eliminate the apartment boss in your current region. Time limit: before the beginner apartment is destroyed. Phase 1, kill the apartment administrator, S tier. Phase 2, kill the apartment wandering merchant, SS tier. Phase 3, kill the apartment boss, SSS tier. Rewards: Number 1. 50 million game coins. Number 2. Skill scroll, bronze tier, ×1. Number 3. Bronze treasure chest ×3. Number 4. Privilege exempt card ×10. Number 5. 1 golden tier dual machine. Special setting from Insu, Phase 1 rewards will be issued upon accepting the quest. Quest failure penalty, none. Do you accept the quest, yes or no? 50 million game coins. A skill scroll, bronze treasure chests, privilege cards, and a golden tier dual machine on top of it all. That last item, listed dead last, had to be the crown jewel of the whole reward set, even without knowing exactly what it did. Just accepting the quest unlocked the rewards immediately, and there was no penalty listed for failure. That felt suspiciously generous. If I accepted and never finished, wouldn't she be taking a real loss? Unless she planned to handle that particular consequence personally. Looked at that way, this SSS tier quest didn't seem so bad after all. Being officially on a quest might even mean she'd stop giving me trouble going forward. And Phase 1 lined up neatly with exactly what the veterans here were already chasing. Tag along with them, and taking down the administrator might not even be that hard. So, should I accept? Right as the thought crossed my mind, the yes or no prompt selected itself automatically to yes. Immediately, another notification followed. Ding! Congratulations on accepting the SSS tier confidential quest. Ding! You have been marked by the apartment boss. A sinking feeling settled in. Had I just walked straight into a trap? Was no failure penalty really as clean as it sounded? From the black lines stretched across the ceiling, one strand slowly descended, a silvery white ring dangling at its end. I took it, a level 1 spatial ring. As I checked its contents, another black thread wrapped around the test tube in my hand, apparently reclaiming her hair at the same moment. The items inside the ring matched the quest rewards exactly. After a brief hesitation, I relaxed my grip and let the test tube drift up along the black strand, vanishing into the ceiling. A moment later, her voice returned. You should know, right, the madman mask needed to kill the administrator only has a chance of dropping after 100 consecutive wins in the duel room. That's why I gave you 10 privilege cards and a golden tier duel machine. Hurry up, win 100 straight, get the mask, and kill the administrator. Once you finish phase 1, I'll give you a massive surprise. Something about the word surprise coming from her carried a genuinely unsettling undertone. What if it wasn't a surprise so much as a heart attack? I wanted to ask more, but the black lines on the ceiling shifted and vanished all at once, and the eerie atmosphere that had gripped the whole floor settled back to normal. The quest details had only appeared in my own mind, so no one else had caught them, but everyone had heard her final words out loud. 1xin couldn't hold back. Holy, 10 privilege cards and a golden tier duel machine? Don't tell me you actually planned this whole thing, getting hunted by an NPC on purpose just to farm a quest that speedruns you straight to 100 wins? That's why you agreed to that 10 minutes 10 wins deal so confidently earlier? And when you were stalling instead of just getting in the machine, you were actually waiting on the reward to drop. He looked ready to skin me alive. Even Wang Chengjin gave me a strange look. No wonder you said you'd hit 100 wins faster than Lin Jin. Turns out you've got a golden tier duel machine tucked away. Honestly, I had no idea what benefits that machine actually offered. But from what the woman in white and these two had just implied, it sounded like something that could seriously fast-track a 100-win streak. I was about to ask exactly what it did when a commotion broke out near duel machine number 1. Mixed into the noise, murmurs rippled through the crowd. Lin Jin's out. I turned to look. A lean young man in a black tactical jacket stepped out from the machine, crossed the crowd, and walked straight toward me, footsteps calm and measured, voice matching them. You took a quest to kill the administrator? Even if someone succeeded at that in the game before, the administrator in a beginner apartment isn't easy to kill. First, the moment a player attacks him, he gains the right to instantly erase that player. That privilege can only be countered by the Madman Mask, earned through 100 consecutive duel room wins. But the 100-win reward only lets you pick one of 3 items, meaning your odds of actually getting the mask are 1 in 3. That alone tells you how rare it is. And even then, it only nullifies his erase privilege for 3 minutes. Even wearing it, you'd have to finish him off inside that window. I remember in the game, it took an entire squad of 10 whales, and countless failed attempts before that, just to barely pull it off. Bottom line, there's no realistic way someone like you solos the administrator during the beginner phase. 10 players, working together, and even then it had taken repeated failures? And presumably the 10 strongest players in that whole beginner region at that. I glanced around the massive 99th floor, packed wall to wall with duel machines, and asked him casually, "You're all gathered here specifically for the Madman Mask from a 100-win streak, to take down the administrator together?" Relaxed tone. He stepped closer, his sharp, serious face not one for small talk, and then, unexpectedly, gave me a meaningful smile. "You're definitely not a game player." I didn't bother hiding it and just nodded. Pretending to be a slacker when you're secretly a top student is easy. Pretending to be a top student when you're not is the hard part. I'd never actually played Doomsday Apartment, and it was only a matter of time before that became obvious. These 99 veterans had assumed from the start I was one of them. A little more scrutiny and the cracks would have shown regardless. I killed a cross-apartment player by accident and used his chip to end up here, far from home, without really meaning to. Said plainly, openly. Every big name present froze. Wang Chengjin connected the dots first. So when you asked me about NPC items earlier, you genuinely didn't know? Wan Xin was just as floored. So you're not a game player, and you still one-shot Jiang Ye? What about the 3-win streak, Are you the bald guy the duo organization's hunting? I lied through my teeth. There are plenty of bald guys running around with disguise masks. Doesn't necessarily mean it was me. Honestly, don't know. Juan Xin rolled his eyes hard. Quit playing dumb, the announcement listed a seat number. You're seriously telling me you don't know if it matched yours? I stuck to it shamelessly. Really don't know if it was me. He rolled his eyes again, clearly not buying a word of it. Meanwhile, the crowd of veterans around us kept murmuring, a kid who happened to grab a random cross-apartment item and just so happened to land here, of all places? How had nobody even considered a newbie stumbling in like this? It was only day one. What newbie managed to cross apartments this fast, let alone end up in 99.99 specifically? And this newbie wasn't exactly ordinary either, bold enough to get chased across apartments by an NPC and somehow turn that into an actual quest. Most insane part of all, that quest had handed him a golden tier duel machine out of nowhere. I ignored the chatter, more focused on the administrator's actual combat power and whether there were any strategies beyond the mask worth knowing. I was about to ask Lin Jing directly when he narrowed his eyes, thinking it over, and said in a low voice, given your situation, using a golden tier duel machine might not be a great idea. Remember our earlier deal, 10 wins in 10 minutes, and we'd bring you in. If not, we send you off. Well, you don't need to rush the 10-win proof anymore. Just hand the golden tier duel machine over to me, and I'll bring you along regardless. How's that sound? I frowned immediately, giving him a cold look. If I can pull off 10 wins in 10 minutes, why the hell would I hand my golden tier duel machine over to you? The whole room froze the second I said it. Every quiet murmur died out instantly. Lin Jing's already stern face went colder still. After a pause, his voice deepened. When I said I'd bring you along, that includes helping you fight the administrator. Another pause. In this whole 0000 to 99.99 beginner zone, essentially every player with a real shot at hitting 100 wins, earning the mask, and meaningfully contributing to that fight is already here in apartment 99.99. Which means, without us, your quest to kill the administrator is practically impossible. I thought it over. If killing the administrator genuinely required a coordinated team and couldn't be soloed, then how was I supposed to manage Phase 2, the Wandering Merchant, and Phase 3, the boss itself, entirely on my own regardless? If I truly meant to finish the quest Su had handed me, I was probably going to end up soloing the administrator eventually no matter what. Whether these guys helped now or not barely mattered in the long run. So I stuck to the same line. So you're really going back on our deal, huh? That whole 10 wins in 10 minutes and I bring you in thing was just talk? Sharp, provocative. The tension in the room thickened further. Plenty of eyes locked onto me like I'd lost my mind. Nobody spoke, nobody typed a word into the chat, but the stares said it all. Was this kid fearless, or just brain dead? A level 1 with barely 50 combat power, talking to Lin Jing like that? Did landing one NPC quest really make him think he was untouchable? Using a golden tier duel machine as a bargaining chip on someone this week was a total waste. Lin Jing could have just taken it by force and instead tried to negotiate, and this punk had the nerve to refuse? While the onlookers itched for a fight, Lin Jing didn't move. He stayed calm, unbothered by my tone, and picked the thread back up smoothly. When I said I'd bring you along, I meant helping in a life or death duel, not against the administrator. Ah, I see. I raised an eyebrow. No problem then, I don't need your help fighting the administrator. The subtext was clear, I'd rather chase the 10-win streak myself than hand over the machine. His expression didn't change, but his eyes turned more complicated. After a pause, he asked, "You're sure?" I nodded. "I'm sure." Then added, "I'm sure I'm planning to solo the apartment administrator." The administrator. The moment those words left my mouth, the atmosphere shifted all over again, the looks aimed at me growing even stranger. The other veterans had mostly stayed quiet out of deference to Lin Jing's presence. That restraint snapped now. Wang Chengjin spoke first, already primed with suspicion. This kid's mouth is way too big. Every word out of him is just hot air. Remember him claiming he'd beat Lin Jing to 100 wins earlier? Pure bald-faced nonsense. Never seen anyone this shameless. And the real kicker, he's a total noob. Either running his mouth irresponsibly, or just blindly clueless. Clearly, nobody here believed I could actually solo the administrator. Some of the more ruthless voices started murmuring, so what if Lin Jing just went back on his word entirely? This wasn't some peaceful game server, this was a real apocalypse. You could already kill someone for survival points, killing for a golden tier duel machine was even more justified. Even if Lin Jing turned on me and robbed me outright, that would just prove I was too weak to hold on to it in the first place. One voice went further, maybe that cross-apartment NPC actually wanted them to kill me. An ordinary man's only crime being possession of treasure, maybe that golden tier duel machine was itself the reward for whoever finished me off. That would explain why she'd announced it publicly in the first place. NPCs didn't normally hand out rewards before a quest was complete, so why had I gotten mine up front, unless it was meant for someone else entirely? The more they talked it through, the more convinced they sounded. Even I couldn't help but wonder, for a second, whether the woman in white had genuinely dangled those rewards as bait, hoping someone here would do the killing for her. But before the doubt could fully take root, Lin Jing swept his gaze across the room. One look, loaded with pressure, and the whole floor went silent. He addressed the crowd directly. You really think an NPC would offer a golden tier duel machine just to get some level 10 to kill a level 1? Quest rewards scaled with difficulty, as a rule. If that machine really had been meant as bounty for killing me, that would mean, in her eyes, I was genuinely strong, not someone just anyone could take down. Beyond that, he didn't believe an NPC of her caliber needed to go through this much theater just to deal with a low-level nobody. If she'd wanted me dead, a straightforward assassination bounty would have done the job with none of the elaborate staging. Which meant every one of these players had just been speculating out of pure self-interest. Once he pointed that out plainly, a few of them looked visibly embarrassed. Lin Jing turned back to me. After a short silence, his tone shifted, growing strange. The quest you took, I'm guessing it isn't just about the administrator, is it? Your whole exchange with that NPC sounded ridiculous. But your actual quest, don't tell me. He paused, it's to kill the apartment boss? Phrased as a question, but it landed like a statement of fact, something calculating underneath it, maybe even something worse. I got the sense he wasn't actually waiting on my answer. After another pause, he went on, calm. Like I said before, 10 wins in 10 minutes earns you a place fighting alongside us. That offer was always about life or death duels specifically. But your golden tier duel machine can be used for those duels too now. So I figured there's no real need to stick to our original terms. He paused again. You seem to think I'm eyeing your machine. Jiang Ye, I actually admire you. They think your claim about soloing the administrator is just empty bravado. I think having that kind of confidence at all already puts you above most people here. The nearby players stared, wide-eyed, genuinely stunned. Was this the first time Lin Jing had ever said he admired someone? And he was praising what everyone else considered pure trash talk? Did he actually believe I could solo the administrator? That single word, admire, shifted the entire mood in the room. The looks aimed at me changed all over again, disdain giving way to something closer to shock, even a flicker of envy in a few faces. None of them had ever earned that kind of acknowledgement from him. And honestly, hearing it, I felt a brief flush of satisfaction myself. Being praised and recognized always feels good, more so coming from someone this far above you in both strength and standing. Like a kid getting singled out by a teacher everyone respected, instead of some random classmate. Lin Jing was exactly that kind of figure here. So when he said admire and it landed like genuine respect, of course something in me stirred. But I caught myself fast, alertness snapping back into place. I remembered exactly how the black-robed player had gone down during my 3-win streak. How Huang Qi, a cross-apartment killer, had died in one shot. I hadn't forgotten any of it. This sudden shift in Lin Jing's tone had come too fast, too smooth. That admiration almost certainly carried an agenda of its own. So I kept my expression flat, unreadable, and just stared back at him. That cool response clearly grated on the other 9,999 players, but Lin Jing didn't seem to care. He kept going. To me, out of everyone in this apartment, you might be the only one actually qualified to fight beside me. The strongest players in the room nearly combusted with jealousy on the spot, their expressions twisting further. Lin Jing offered a brief smile to ease the tension, then steered the conversation back on track. Maybe you really do have what it takes to solo the administrator eventually. But when do you plan to actually do it? Tomorrow? The day after? 5 days from now, 7? Tomorrow or the day after, you almost certainly won't have the strength. Wait 5 or 7 days, and sure, maybe you will, but then you'll have barely any time left for your real final objective, the apartment boss. He paused. I'd still like us to cooperate on taking down the administrator. Let's aim to finish that within 3 days. As for the golden tier duel machine, if you don't want to give it up, I won't push. Even so, since taking down the administrator benefits us both, and you're the one holding the actual quest, you stand to gain more from this than I do. So all I'm asking is, when it comes time for the boss, let me be part of that fight too. How does that kind of arrangement sound? This wasn't really cooperation. This was Lin Jing offering to help me finish my own quest. I couldn't help wondering what was really going on with him. Praising me, acknowledging me, now offering to help complete the actual objective? On the surface, his ask was simply to be included in the fight against the boss, but in practice, that request still worked entirely in my favor. Had he sensed something in me, some kind of protagonist's luck, and decided to get ahead of it, hitching himself to my rise early? Something about him didn't sit right. My internal guard climbed higher. Outwardly, though, I let myself look genuinely moved by his apparent goodwill. After a pause, I finally spoke. So what you're saying is, I don't need to bother with the 10-win streak anymore? He smiled again. Of course not. I don't have any right to bring you along, what I actually want is to fight beside you. I stayed quiet. The rest of apartment 9999 stayed even quieter, hardly able to process what they'd just witnessed. Lin Jing, this cordial toward another player? What the hell was going on with this Jiang Ye guy? Some secret pre-apocalypse powerhouse, someone even Lin Jing looked up to? While the others speculated wildly about my mysterious background as the reason for his sudden respect, Wang Chengjin had a flash of insight of his own. Back in the actual Doomsday Apartment game, after the first whale team had successfully killed an administrator, other whale teams followed suit, around 10 total managed it eventually. But among those 10, something unusual had happened once. That anomaly ended up producing the single strongest player the game had ever seen. The player responsible for triggering it, though, had later turned up dead in real life, suddenly, with no explanation, so nobody ever learned exactly what had caused the event in the first place. A thought struck him. What if that mysteriously deceased player, the one who'd triggered the anomaly, had been someone exactly like me, someone who'd taken on a quest to kill the apartment boss? That would explain Lin Jing's behavior completely. He didn't actually admire me. He wanted to team up, take down the administrator together, and then try to reproduce that same anomaly that had once crowned someone the strongest player of all time. Turning that over, Wang Chengjin found his own ambitions stirring. Everyone here admired Lin Jing purely because of his overwhelming strength. If someone eventually emerged who could crush his power outright, that person would simply become the new boss in his place. And why couldn't that person be him? He wanted to walk that same path himself. He lowered his eyes, fists clenching, that same youthful hunger for glory flaring up uncontrollably. Someone his age should be the one people worshipped, not the other way around. His gaze drifted to me. This clueless, fearless newbie could be exactly the stepping stone he needed toward that kind of power. Let's see who reached it first, him or Lin Jing. He straightened, eyes noticeably brighter, and while the rest of the room kept speculating about my background, he walked straight over with a sudden, sycophantic smile, a complete reversal from his earlier mockery. Damn, bro. Didn't expect you'd actually have what it takes to earn Lin Jing's admiration. Guess I judged you wrong, don't take it personally, man. Then, almost as an afterthought, oh, by the way, I've been calling you bro and kid this whole time, you are a guy under there, right? That bald look, can you switch it off? The other veterans watched him flip so fast and felt a wave of quiet disdain, though he clearly didn't care, already picturing the day he'd step over me, surpass Lin Jing, and become the one everyone fawned over instead. Naturally, I kept the bald disguise exactly as it was. I had no idea what either of them was actually plotting, but for the moment, things had settled into something at least stable. No more rush toward the 10-win streak. Honestly, part of me wanted to just head back to my own apartment. But that would cost a full survival point, which I didn't currently have. And I had a strong suspicion Lin Jing wouldn't let me leave before the administrator fight was settled one way or another. So I said nothing about heading back. Instead, I used checking my quest rewards as an excuse to head down to the administrator's desk on the first floor and rent a room on the 20th floor, then retreated there to sort through everything looted from the woman in white's little bounty. Meanwhile, having reclaimed her hair, she returned to apartment 1008, specifically, room 2064. I wasn't in sight when she arrived, and her assistant robot said nothing either. She glanced calmly around the apartment, then walked straight to the large TV in the living room, let out a cold little laugh toward the screen, and pressed the remote almost casually. The screen lit up with the same gloomy forest she'd once led Replica 1 through on the way to the rooftop. But now the view was moving on its own, sweeping through the trees like a pair of searching eyes. Those eyes locked onto something. Right there in the middle of the forest stood the figure of my Replica 1. I crept stealthily through the gloomy forest. Replica 1 had originally just snuck into the woman in white's home. Meanwhile, over on Replica 2's side, I'd been getting lectured by the veterans of apartment 9999 about exactly how overpowered a cross-apartment NPC really was. A bad feeling had settled in immediately, and the moment Replica 1 slipped into room 2064, I was already thinking about a way out. The ridiculous part was, getting in had been effortless. Her assistant robot let me through without a second thought. Getting out, though? The door wouldn't budge, and that robot showed zero intention of letting me leave. While Replica 2 was busy cursing Yang Wenchao's name internally, Replica 1 got assigned a fresh task, a sign that the woman in white had left the apartment. I sensed the opening immediately and made a bold call. I grabbed the cleaner badge and started fiddling with the TV, and sure enough, just like before, the screen sucked me straight into the gloomy forest. I had no idea when she'd return, but I remembered exactly where the white bedsheet was, the one that would teleport me back to the rooftop. As long as I reached it before she got back, I should be fine. That's how I ended up sneaking through that forest again. What I didn't know was that, at that exact moment, the woman in white was lounging on her living room couch, casually watching me creep through the trees on her TV screen. Her thoughts drifted as she watched. Did this guy really have what it took to kill the apartment boss? Normally, when an NPC handed out a quest, it was because they genuinely believed the player had some real shot at completing it. Killing the boss? Even she herself couldn't manage that. And this sneaky little level 0 scrap on the screen? She leaned back, shaking her head slightly, half wondering how she'd ever ended up handing him a quest at all. But a moment later, her eyes turned cold. She raised a hand, and a thin black thread shot straight toward the screen. Back in the forest, I'd finally found the white bedsheet leading to the rooftop, hanging from a leafless, dead tree, pure white, no bloodstains anywhere on it. Just as I moved to run for it, another sheet, this one bloodstained, shot out from a different dead tree and sucked me in instead. My whole world shifted in an instant. Still eerie, still grim, but now the sky burned blood red, the air thick with a fog that reeked of blood itself. Just breathing felt like it was draining me, something cold and wet seeping straight into my bones. That's when I realized Replica 1's already unimpressive stats had taken a massive hit. My whole body went weak, exactly like when my main body tried running 3 replicas at once on insufficient reserves. And as if that weren't enough, in that weakened state, I heard it, the hiss, hiss, hiss of snakes. Within seconds, hundreds of black venomous snakes were closing in on me at terrifying speed. My trypophobia was about to hit its absolute limit. No time to dwell on it, though. I fused Replica 3 and its mirror copy into myself immediately. Under normal circumstances, that fusion would have pushed my combat power well past 200. But with my attributes halved by this blood mist, it barely gave me the strength of a single replica. Thankfully, frozen domains still froze the swarms solid, slowing them to a crawl. I'd never fully appreciated just how powerful a domain skill could be until that exact moment. I didn't waste a second, following up immediately with Frost Mist Invasion, icy fog sweeping through the frozen mass of snakes. Notifications rang out one after another. You've killed a level 1 Shadow Ring snake. Gained plus 10 energy points. Ding. You've leveled up to level 1. Stamina increased by 1 point. Energy increased by 1 point. You've killed a level 1 Shadow Ring snake. Gained plus 1 energy point. Once leveled, each additional kill only netted a single point. But with hundreds of snakes swarming me, that plus 1 notification rang out 100 times over, and eventually. Ding! You've leveled up to level 2. Stamina increased by 1 point. Energy increased by 1 point. Same flat gain going from level 1 to 2. After that, more kills stopped granting any energy at all. Lucky for me, in under a minute I'd wiped out most of the swarm. Out of all those hundreds of snakes, only a single black iron treasure chest dropped. I grabbed it and collapsed to the ground, feeling like I'd just barely clawed my way out of death. I barely had a few seconds to catch my breath before a rustling sound rose out of the blood mist, and the ground beneath me started to shake. I tensed instantly, resting cut short. The rustling was coming from the twisted trees surrounding me, more of them than there'd been snakes, and worse, these things had reach. Even from a distance, they could lash out with extended branches. My frozen domain could only cover 2 or 3 at the edges, anything farther sat completely out of range. Still, with no better option, I triggered the domain again, followed it with Frost Mist Invasion, and cut one down fast with the Ghost Ring Blade. You've killed a level 3 Twisted Tray Ant. Gained plus 100 energy points. A level 2 killing a level 3 netted 100 points that time, good, but not quite enough to push me to level 3 outright. I kept moving, dodging whipping branches while cutting through more of them. You've killed a level 3 Twisted Tray Ant. Gained plus 100 energy points. But as the fight dragged on, the pressure kept mounting. Sure, I'd cleared those hundreds of snakes easily enough, but that had been with 2 full replicas fused together. Once the 3-minute window closed, all I had left to fuse were Replica 4 and Replica 3's mirror copy. And making a fresh mirror copy required standing in front of the replica reflection mirror, displaying my full panel, for 30 full seconds. 30 seconds in the middle of an active crisis could easily get me killed. Was Replica 1 about to get sacrificed right here? Back in room 2064, Insu lounged on her couch, watching the screen, lost in thought. Replica fusion had to be. Hard work pays off. Gold element affinity, ice element affinity, all 3 had to be separate replicas. Which meant his main body was carrying something SSS tier underneath it all. Had to be, a data panel even detection couldn't parse, and every replica reading as an ordinary player's panel in its own right. Genuinely a first for her. SSS tier abilities were rare, but not unheard of. Still, even with one, trying to kill the boss overseeing an entire beginner apartment this early in the game? The odds sat somewhere near impossible. She watched as I finished off my 10th Twisted Tray Ant, hitting level 3 in the process, and consoled herself with a thought. Maybe, if she rounded generously enough, next to impossible could be squinted at as a tiny sliver of hope. Meanwhile, in apartment 9999, room 2025, Replica 2 had sensed the danger the instant Replica 1 got dragged into the blood mist, and moved without hesitation to try and buy a lifeline. I pulled the golden tier dual machine from the spatial ring the woman in white had given me. At first it sat palm-sized. One press of the top button and it expanded into a hulking device, 3 meters wide and 5 tall, matte black, radiating a luxury far beyond anything I'd seen in the ordinary dual room. No time to admire it, though. With Replica 1 in real danger, I entered immediately. Unlike the public machines, this one didn't deduct a fee, it performed an instant identity bind instead. Public machines worked like internet cafe terminals, open to anyone who paid. This one worked like a home computer, bound exclusively to me once activated. Machines like this normally cost a fortune. Whatever this golden tier machine had actually cost the woman in white, it clearly wasn't cheap, possibly not purchasable with currency at all, only survival points. No wonder even Lin Jing had his eye on it. I finished the bind and stepped into the virtual space. This time, instead of the usual first-floor lobby or second-floor dual zone, I found myself in a luxurious, low-key VIP suite, sofas, a coffee table, a wine cabinet, bookshelves, even a projector and karaoke setup. All of it stuff that normally cost real money in the low-end mall's entertainment section, here bundled in for free. Not here to relax, though. I started checking the room's functions. Each wall corresponded to something different. The north wall displayed my personal info. Record. For win streak, 100%. Title, Nameless Black Iron. Game coins, 50.02 million. Items, announcement card times 3, privilege card times 3, privilege exempt card times 3, quick win card times 1. Where had all these cards come from? A quiet system prompt answered it. First log into the golden tier duel machine today, automatically received announcement card times 3, privilege card times 3, privilege exempt card times 3, quick win card times 1. So this machine came with a VIP suite and a daily free stash of cards on top of it. Converted to currency, that haul alone was worth a fortune, meaning using this thing wasn't just free, it actively paid me every single day. No wonder it earned the golden tier. None of that solved the actual crisis, though. I didn't even stop to check what the quick win card did, and moved on to the east wall, dual mode options, beginner, normal, survival. None of it useful right now. The south wall brought up a full redemption list, the ability to spend currency, points, or survival points on listed items, with discounts scaled to title. Being nameless black iron got me essentially nothing on that front. If the high-end mall was a physical luxury store, this was online shopping, nothing physically present, just images and descriptions, but searchable and fast. Right now, all I could spend was currency. 50 million of it. I could buy almost anything, the catch being, anything I bought would land in Replica 2's hands specifically, in apartment 9999. Even the skill scrolls from the woman in white's quest rewards, I wanted those with my main body, but how? Scanning the list, something familiar caught my eye. A delivery box. Black Iron Tier delivery box. Price, 100 currency. Effect, delivered to the designated apartment's errand station within 3 days. No defensive measures, high chance of loss, insurance recommended. Bronze Tier delivery box. Price, 1000 currency. Effect, delivered within 1 day. Some defensive features, but still some risk, insurance recommended. Silver Tier delivery box. Price, 100,000 currency. Effect. Delivered to the specified location in 3 seconds. Very low chance of loss. Recommended for high-value item transport. Guaranteed delivery in 3 seconds, insane. But that price. 100,000 just to send a package meant whatever went inside had to be worth millions, maybe tens of millions, and even then it wasn't guaranteed safe, very low chance of loss wasn't the same as zero. Genuinely tempting, if I'd had any way to hijack one of these myself. I checked whether a gold tier option existed. I'd already noticed, both here and in the high-end mall, that silver was currently the ceiling across the board. No gold tier available yet. Under normal circumstances, I'd have thought twice about something this expensive and risky. But Replica 1 mattered more than any amount of currency. After a brief pause, I bought the silver delivery box outright and started loading it. Even though Replica 1 was the one in actual danger, I had no idea where he actually was. So the package had to go to my main body instead, and to actually help save him, the priority had to be skill scrolls. Something as powerful as Replica Fusion might be exactly the turnaround needed. I'd also been rethinking my odds at the 100 win streak. The veterans of 9,999 had made even 10 wins sound borderline impossible. That gave me real pause. Right now, with just Replica 2 fused to Replica 3's mirror copy, even 10 wins felt like a stretch, since Replica 3 itself hadn't been fully powered up yet. Its skills, Frozen Domain, Frost Mist Invasion, were solid, but it was still level 0 with only 58 combat power. Post-fusion power was never a clean 1+1, though. What if Replica 3's attributes broke past 10 each, and its combat power cracked 500? Then I could send Replica 2 out to match against someone around 50 combat power, fuse with that 500 power Replica mid-fight, and even landing somewhere just above 500 total, that was still 500 against 50. Just imagining it made me want to laugh. With that kind of trick, I could cheat my way through win streaks entirely, keep the active Replica deliberately weak looking for easy matchmaking, then fuse in overwhelming strength the moment the fight started. Like a small fry suddenly getting possessed by a god mid-battle. 100 win streak would be trivial with that setup. I might even beat Lin Jing to it. Rare Madman Mask? If every one of my replicas could farm win streaks independently, I could grind out a whole stockpile of masks and sell the extras for profit. The thought alone had me grinning. So beyond the skill scrolls for my main body, I packed the box with gear meant to power up Replica 3 specifically. What had happened to Replica 1 drove the lesson home: every replica needed to be able to stand on its own. I couldn't keep leaning on Replica Fusion as a crutch forever. Powerful as it was for emergencies, without that lucky exploit through the reflection mirror, most of my replicas would be locked in cooldown, unable to fuse again anytime soon. I needed every single one trained into a real fighter in its own right. With that settled, I didn't hesitate spending the full 50 million. Skill scrolls first, pricier even than attribute fruits, bronze starting at 500,000, silver running a full 8 million each. High price, presumably high value. I gritted my teeth and exchanged for 2 silver skill scrolls and 2 bronze, 17 million gone. Then 6 silver attribute fruits, another 30 million. Down to under 3 million after that. 10 bronze attribute fruits for 1 million. 20 black iron ones for 200,000. Finally, a silver treasure chest for 1.2 million. Total spend, including the delivery box itself, 49.5 million. Remaining balance, 520,000. Nerve-wracking, loading nearly 50 million worth of goods into a single shipment. If anything went wrong, if someone managed to intercept it somehow, no, don't jinx it. I sealed the box, filled in the delivery details. After the apartment fusion, 1008 had been renamed 1010. Destination, apartment 1010, room 2025. Confirm all information is correct? Send immediately? The sleek silver box vanished in a flash of light. Both versions of me held our breath. Thankfully, luck cooperated. Under 3 seconds later, the box materialized in the living room of my main body's apartment. I confirmed the recipient info, signed for it, and watched the box itself blink out of existence the moment the transaction closed. No reuse. Fine by me, I'd moved fast enough. Back with Replica 1, the fusion's effect had just run out. Good news first, I'd hit level 3 right before it expired. For a second I'd wondered if that level could somehow transfer over to Replica 3 instead, but the rules of Replica Fusion were clear: 1 primary, 1 auxiliary, and only the primary keeps credit for levels, streaks, and kills. Nothing carries over. Still, level 3 meant a real stat bump, so when the fusion ended, Replica 1 didn't collapse entirely. Some mobility remained, though nothing close to what 3 fused replicas had offered. Then a loud snap, a tree spirit's spine lashed across my body. Good thing I still had the Heartguard Jade looted off Wang Qi, or that hit might have knocked me out cold. Back in my main body's apartment, I didn't waste a second and tore open a silver skill scroll immediately, while Replica 3 stood in front of the mirror, still generating a fresh copy. If Replica 1 could hold out another 30 seconds, there was still hope. Maybe I'd torn it open too anxiously. This time, the light from the scroll didn't bring that same rush of insight I'd hoped for. For a moment I genuinely wondered if I'd hit one of those rare failure rolls, nothing learned at all. Thankfully, checking my panel, a new skill had appeared. Just not the C tier I'd been hoping for. Another D tier, same as Replica Fusion. Shared storage accessible by all replicas. Items carried by different replicas can be instantly transferred through this space. Not a bad skill by any means, genuinely better than by Ruowan's pocket space. At minimum, it meant I'd never need a silver delivery box just to move items between replicas again. I could simply drop something in shared storage and any replica could pull it out instantly. But it didn't solve the immediate crisis. Was I supposed to just toss a silver attribute fruit into shared storage for Replica 1 to somehow eat mid-fight? Those fruits were earmarked for Replica 3, to help Replica 2 farm win streaks properly. No time to overthink it. I took a breath to steady myself and refocused. I wasn't sure if mindset actually affected scroll comprehension, but I had no better option than to calm down and fully absorb the next one's light. This time, the sensation hit completely different. My mind went crystal clear, consciousness fanning out into 1,000 threads reaching for something vast and precise. But the second I snapped back to the present, Replica 1 was barely holding on. The Heartguard Jade cracked open right then, searing pain tearing through his body, shredding what little mobility he'd regained and leaving him unable to dodge the twisted tree spirits closing in. Worse, those things seemed genuinely intelligent. They'd avoided me earlier purely because of the domain and frost mist invasion. Now, with neither active and a few clean hits landed without any icy retaliation, they went fully berserk, their assault turning relentless. At this rate, he wouldn't last more than a few more seconds. An attribute fruit wouldn't have made any real difference even if I could deliver one in time. Su, still lounging on her couch, watched the battered figure on screen and shook her head, disappointed. 3 minutes of fusion, that was his only real trump card? And with that, he thought he could kill an apartment boss? She'd seen replica-based abilities before. What made mine stand out was purely that each replica carried its own full player panel, indistinguishable from an ordinary player's. But raw strength-wise, each one individually was weak. Fine for running errands, playing harmless, juggling several roles at once. But in the actual Doomsday Apartment, none of that mattered. Only power did. And this replica's power was far too soft. 100 of him, 10,000, wouldn't so much as ruffle a hair on an apartment boss. He'd probably struggle against a mere administrator. She kept watching, coldly, with no intention of stepping in. Just as the tree spirits launched a finishing blow toward my bloodied, faltering body, something shifted. I moved like an entirely different person, every trace of pain seemingly gone, reaction speed spiking. Right before the whip landed, I slipped past it, impossibly close. I let out a hard breath. That dodge had been razor-thin. Replica 3's mirror copy had just finished forming and fused instantly, and the tide of the fight turned in that same moment. Another steady breath. As I dodged, I hurled the ghost ring blade, triggered frozen domain again, and dove back into the fight against the tree spirits. Different this time from the earlier 3 replica fusion, my raw attributes weren't as high, but with absolute focus and combat stance both active, my reflexes and combat instincts had clearly leveled up on their own. My footwork weaving through their attacks felt smoother than it ever had. The figure standing in that blood mist wasn't strictly Replica 1 anymore. Because my main body had just picked up a fresh C-tier skill from that second scroll. Designate 2 replicas for a position swap. In certain special environments, the swap may fail. I had no idea whether this blood mist space counted as one of those special environments, but I was out of other options. I'd originally planned to swap Replica 3 indirectly, but Replica 3 was still tied up finishing its mirror copy. Swapping now would have broken that process and cost another 30 seconds. So I chose Replica 2 instead, all the way over in apartment 9999. The swap succeeded. Replica 2, running on hard work pays off, didn't carry the same heavy offensive skills Replica 3 had, but its raw combat instincts operated on another level entirely. I realized, watching it play out, that absolute focus and combat stance seemed to hit their real peak specifically when backed fully into a corner. Against the tree spirit's attacks, that instinct proved brutally effective. I even found myself thinking these tree spirits could make decent sparring partners to sharpen combat sense further. No time for that luxury now, though. I pushed to finish the fight quickly. Since Replica 2 was only level 1, the notifications kept firing. You have defeated a level 3 Twisted Tree Spirit. Gained plus 200 energy points. Ding! You've leveled up to level 2. Stamina increased by 1 point. Energy increased by 1 point. You have defeated a level 3 Twisted Tree Spirit. Gained plus 100 energy points. Successfully killed level 3 Twisted Tree Ant. Gained energy points plus 100. Once past level 2, clearing these things got noticeably easier. At this rate, just 10 more kills would push Replica 2 to level 3 as well, after which the energy gains from these particular monsters would presumably taper off sharply again. But if I just kept swapping in fresh level 0 replicas through replica swap, this whole zone could become a personal leveling ground, cycling every replica through steady, efficient growth. The same limitation remained, though. Chaining replica fusion required a 30-second window each time to generate a new mirror copy. At least with shared storage now available, Replica 2 could pull defensive items during that gap far more easily. And I still had plenty of unused loot from those stolen packages sitting untouched. Once I confirmed Replica 2 was out of immediate danger, my main body turned back to sorting through the delivered goods. Skill scrolls first. I'd already used the 2 silver ones. 3 bronze scrolls remained, 2 purchased, 1 earned as a quest reward from the woman in white. Reasonably calm by then, I didn't need much mental preparation. Still, I took a few steadying breaths before tearing them open one by one. These carried a real chance of yielding nothing at all, but luck held. All 3 granted new skills, each D tier. Replica Mutation, D. When generating a new replica, you can choose a different name and appearance from the main body. Nothing that boosted combat power directly, but it gave my replicas real diversity going forward. Without it, if I ever scaled up toward true infinite replication, having dozens of identical Jiang Yes wandering around would have been an obvious tell. Mutated replicas would cut that risk dramatically. A genuinely solid skill. What actually thrilled me was the second one. Replica Possession, D. Designate up to 3 replicas to possess the main body. The attributes, abilities, and skills of the replicas are fully stacked onto the main body for 3 minutes. Essentially replica fusion in reverse, with my main body as the core this time. Finally, my main body itself could handle an emergency directly. And if my instinct was right, mirror copies should be able to possess it too. The third scroll granted something more basic. Detect item info, detect player info. A full tier above Little Bing's rank version, and far more convenient having my own built-in detection, no more relying on him for it, especially since scanning other players covertly through my own skill wouldn't risk drawing attention the way using him might. Plus, a few items from Huang Qi's stash had already stumped Little Bing's scanner entirely. Time to try again with the upgrade. First target, a silver ribbon of light, weightless, almost imperceptible in hand. I hadn't thought much of it before. Little Bing's scan had failed on it completely, and even having Replica 4 wear it on the wrist had produced nothing. This time, the scan finally returned a result. Ring of critical strikes. Wrap it around the handle of a weapon. The next attack with that weapon is guaranteed to crit. Uses left, 2 out of 3. So it needed to be wrapped around a weapon handle, explained why the wrist test had done nothing. Tricky to use practically, since keeping it on a primary weapon at all times wasn't realistic, and with only 3 charges and presumably serious power behind each one, it made more sense as an emergency trump card, ideally pre-equipped on a spare weapon and held in reserve, since fumbling to attach it mid-crisis could easily waste the opportunity. I set it aside and scanned a small bag of what looked like chocolate beans next. Man-eating plant seeds. Throw hard to rapidly grow various man-eating plant monsters that attack all nearby living creatures. These monsters attack indiscriminately. Use with caution to avoid friendly fire. Good thing no replica had ever tried snacking on one of those, they genuinely smelled like chocolate. I dropped the whole bag into shared storage and moved to an oil lamp next. Also known as the heart-cleaving lamp. Once lit, dispels most low-tier illusions. Remaining duration, 100 out of 120 minutes. If it already sat at 100 out of 120, Huang Qi had burned 20 minutes of it already. caught in an illusion himself, maybe, or just testing it idly. 20 minutes didn't sound like idle curiosity, though, more likely he'd used it to break through something specific. That thought planted a seed of suspicion. Was that eerie sheet-draped forest itself an illusion? Was the blood mist zone Replica 2 was fighting through right now one too? Since that zone wasn't currently dangerous, genuinely useful for leveling, in fact, I decided to hold off on using the lamp and stored it away as well. 2 more unidentified items remained, a string of prayer beads, and a small wooden carving. The beads scanned clean. Heartless prayer beads. If your player kill count exceeds 100, wear this at all times to purge killing intent and avoid attracting vengeful spirits. So cross 100 kills, and vengeful spirits start taking notice. I stored the beads and turned to the wooden ornament, and the scan failed outright. It had looked unsettling from the start, a carving of 2 infants huddled together, small and hugging. Normally something like that would be carved from translucent jade, worn as a lucky charm. This one was wood instead, rough and unnervingly light in the hand, and scorched black all over. 2 charred infant figures, curled as if asleep, radiating something deeply wrong. I could tell at a glance this wasn't an ordinary item, and sure enough, even my new D-tier detection couldn't identify it. I didn't dwell on it, just dropped it into shared storage alongside everything else. Finally, my attention landed on the 6 silver attribute fruits, 3 stamina, 3 energy. I had my main body eat 1 of each immediately. The moment those 2 silver fruits went down, a wave of pure pleasure surged through me. Every pore on my body felt like it opened at once, drawing out a long, involuntary sigh. Checking the stats panel confirmed it. Stamina and energy both jumped by a full 5 points. Worth remembering, bronze fruits had only given +1 on their very first use, and even leveling up itself only ever granted +1 per attribute. These silver fruits delivered a flat +5 in one shot. For 5 million currency apiece, genuinely worth it. Next, I had Replica 3 eat 2 silver fruits as well, another +5 to each attribute. Then I fed it 10 bronze and black iron fruits on top of that. The first bronze fruit gave +1, by the 5th, it had dropped to just +0.2, roughly a 0.2 decline per fruit, meaning the 6th would likely do nothing at all. Black iron followed the same pattern, +0.5 first, +0.1 by the 5th, 6th presumably useless too. Extrapolating further, a 5th silver fruit should only add +1 by that point in the curve. In other words, every tier of attribute fruit capped out at 5 uses, 5 stamina fruits plus 5 energy fruits, 10 total per tier. Having mapped that pattern out, I could now use them far more efficiently going forward, with none wasted. I could also now calculate the full ceiling per tier, maxing out black iron, bronze, and silver together added up to 19.5 points total, 1. 5 from black iron, 3 from bronze, 15 from silver. As for Replica 3, after burning through its full black iron and bronze allotment, its attributes had climbed 4.5 each. Add 1 silver fruit on top of that, and the total gain hit 9.5, pushing every one of its attributes past 10. Its combat power broke straight past 100. And with Replica Fusion layered on top of that going forward, the results would only get more absurd. At this point, even still sitting at level 0, Replica 3 had real staying power, capable of handling Twisted Trance solo in that blood mist zone without needing fusion at all. It had fully come into its own. Even so, I wasn't planning to stop there. I wanted every replica maxed out on attribute fruits as fast as possible, which meant it was time to make serious money. Grinding odd jobs for currency was clearly off the table now. My real plan was leveraging the golden tier duel machine, chasing a 100-win streak while raking in cash along the way. That said, Replica 1, badly bruised, barely holding together, was currently the one occupying room 2025 in apartment 9999's territory, while Replica 2 remained the one physically holding the golden tier duel machine's bind. I tried accessing the machine from Replica 1's side. Access denied. So only Replica 2 could actually use the golden tier machine, tied to whichever replica had performed the original bind. While I sat with that frustration, Replica 1 noticed the 9999 chat buzzing about me again. That guy jumped straight to level 3, did he just use 2 level up cards back to back? Does the golden tier machine give those out as daily rewards? Don't think so, right? Maybe he just bought them outright. Dude's already got a golden tier machine, clearly loaded. I stared at the screen, mentally retorting, loaded my ass, I'm broke as hell, still scrambling for money over here. That gave me an idea, though. I didn't say it outright, just played it casual in the chat. Hey, seniors, I've got an item called a lucky bracelet. Detection says it's rechargeable. Anyone know how? Most people active in the chat sat well outside the top 100 on the ranking board. awakens especially, second to last, right above me, was the most active of all, and given our earlier run-in, quick to respond. Damn kid, thought you were a newbie? How'd you end up with a lucky bracelet? I answered plainly. Told you already, killed a veteran player from another apartment. Alright, fair enough, respect. He kept going. As for recharging it, pretty much all luck dependent. Either bury it in soil where lucky flowers grow, or soak it in the blood of lucky creatures, deer, crows, that kind of thing. Problem is, those conditions are basically impossible to meet this early in the beginner phase. Once you're in the actual Doomsday Apartment, you can just pay a pro team to handle it for you. I asked, a little confused. Crows are considered lucky? Of course, in Doomsday Apartment lore, crows are basically the luckiest bird there is. Though, some crows have already gone fully corrupted. Soak the bracelet in a corrupted crow's blood instead, and it turns into a cursed bracelet. What he didn't mention was that a cursed bracelet couldn't be told apart through detection at all. It would still read as an ordinary lucky bracelet even after corruption, and would still appear to charge successfully through the same methods, while its actual effect stayed cursed permanently. Once tainted by Dark Crow's blood, a lucky bracelet would never bring luck again, and the wearer would never even know. That's exactly why players handled these things with real caution, wary of sabotage. Still, this early in the game, corrupted Crow's blood was practically unobtainable, so the odds of that happening to mine sat near zero. I still had 1 silver treasure chest and 3 bronze ones in reserve. My plan, open them all while my luck was running high. And with my main body's attributes improved now, I could support more active replicas at once. I found myself wondering, could maxing out luck actually roll a replica with an ability that surpassed even S tier? Attribute fruits made anyone stronger, sure, but any top player could max those out too. The real gap between players had to come down to abilities themselves. While turning that over, I used Replica Swap again, this time cycling Replica 3 in for Replica 2 directly in the Blood Mist. Exactly as expected, Replica 3 tore through Twisted Trance without needing fusion at all, climbing to level 3 in no time. But then I noticed something. The more Trance I killed, the harder the ground shook. If those tremors were coming from Trance moving underground, then killing more of them should have calmed the shaking, not worsened it. Instead, with fewer Trance left standing, the tremors were only getting stronger. I'd originally planned to cycle Replica 4 in next to level up as well. With this new, unsettling development, I didn't dare push my luck further. I stayed on high alert instead, Replica Fusion ready to trigger at a moment's notice against whatever unknown threat was building beneath the surface. Meanwhile, Replica 1 kept pressing the chat with more questions. Besides the bracelet, I've got another one. I've been browsing the Golden Tier Machines item list, and something stood out. Why are things like skill scrolls and attribute fruits, which directly boost your panel, so expensive, while weapons and gear that don't touch panel combat power at all are relatively cheap? With how the dual rooms matchmaking works, wouldn't players at equal combat power lean harder on gear to actually win? It genuinely bugged me. A silver attribute fruit added 5 points at most. Silver tier gear could boost both stamina and energy by nearly 10 points combined, often with extra effects layered on top. On paper, clearly the better deal. And yet gear priced nowhere near as high as the fruits did. In the 99.99 chat, awakens answered again, though not directly. Instead, he threw back a question of his own. You know why Lin, top of our War God ranking, has a 100% win rate, and might be the first to actually hit 100 straight?